All right, we're not doing any more of this though. I need something else. This is like, yeah, like car commercial music. I'm not having it. Oh, this sounds okay. This is kind of sexy time music. Oh, do you guys want to listen to The Weeknd at the Super Bowl? Just kidding. I'd be immediately DMCA'd. Oh man, I just messed up big time. Oh no. Ow, fuck. Ow, fuck. Oh my god. Hold on. I can't believe I've done this. Oh my lord. Fuck. No. Ow. Hold on. I hope I didn't just burn my hands. Nah, I definitely burned my hands. Holy shit. Hold on. I have to go run my hands under cold water. I think I fucked up. This really happened? Fuck, man. That's fucking unfortunate, dude. God damn it. How am I going to clean this? Oh, my. No! I can't believe this. Dude. So, okay. So what happened was... Fuck. Dude, everything's fucked. Everything's fucked in this stupid fucking office. I have to fucking reorganize this. God damn it. Yeah, my fingers are burned. Dude. So, man, where do I start with this? So I was giving you guys music so that I didn't have to pay attention because I was fucking trying to put hot water into the ramen. And I have the Keurig set up. And I didn't like how the music was, so I turned around to change it. And while I changed it, the Keurig started dumping out the water under the closed lid of the ramen. And the reason why I have to supervise is because I can't hold the lid open. I don't have anything to hold it open. I can't just like put something underneath it because it won't fit underneath the lip of the Keurig. And so I turn around and it's dumping hot water on top of the lid of the Keurig and it's just running down into the fridge and onto the floor. And so I go to lift the lid, of course, and I burn the shit out of my hand. And then I drop the lid because I burn myself. And then the whole thing comes off of the fucking stand and spills on me. Holy shit. Get burn cream? I might actually need burn cream. Like, oh, fuck. Yeah, 2 of my fingers are not looking good right now. That hurts so bad. What the fuck? Oh, man, it's all over the place. I don't know what to do. Hold on. Let me think. I need a brain blast. I guess I'll use... one of my fucking blankets and mop it up. Dude, it's soaked into the carpet. Oh, this is fucked. No, it's all up in the fridge too. Oh, no. Hold on. I need to take a second. I don't know what to do. Get Aquaphor? Yeah, I don't... Hold on. One thing at a fucking time. God damn it. This stupid shit. Ugh, everything's a fucking mess in here. I have no fucking furniture. Ugh. Damn it. I don't know what to do. I guess I just have to leave this. I don't think I'm fixing this mess right now. I don't... Do I do this again? Do I make more ramen? What am I doing here? Fuck. Hold on. Let's fucking triage this. So, first of all, let me clean up what I can clean up. I'll give you guys music in the meantime. I'll just keep playing this. All right, so I'm on round 2 with this fucking water thing. Oh. Dude, the ground is so wet. I don't know what to do. We don't have a window. We don't have towels. Oh, man. Dude, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. I think I just have to leave it. I think I just have to cross my fingers and hope it dries and pat it with this fucking blanket. I think that's literally all I can do here. Oh, mamma mia. Today was the day of the book burning. Yeah, and you'll never forget it, dude. Let me find another tune while I wait for this thing to put out the water, because this time I'll be diligent. Man, what a terrible start. What an awful start to my fucking streaming day. Holy shit. Oh, it got on the iPad. Oh, no. How? It won't turn on. No, you're kidding. I hope this just doesn't have battery. I literally just almost knocked the entire thing over again. I'm okay. Okay. At the top of my list is going to be reorganizing this entire office, because I've not been happy with the setup of it since like day one. I don't feel like I'm using the space in a way where I don't feel like I'm like super cramped. Like part of the compounding frustration of what just happened, which was the Keurig overflowing my ramen, was that I had to move the chair out of the way. And to move the chair out of the way, it runs over the legs of my tripod for my microphone, and it knocked over my entire like tripod setup with the mic. And then because of that, this screw on the mic arm came loose and moved like way out of position from where it's supposed to be. And so that fell apart too. And it fell into the water and it knocked down the iPad. Holy shit. I live in a fucking cartoon. I live in a cartoon. I don't know what else to say. I live in a cartoon. Good God. Is this for like shock value for children in the 20s? Is that who is observing my life at the moment? Yeah, what a fucked up. Yeah, what a fucked up start, I would say. It could be much worse, but that's. Dude, my fingers are definitely burned. At least 2 of them, because they're starting to like bulb up. Man, you know what's funny? Is I was so happy before I started the stream. Like, I was so excited to talk about motorcycles and stuff today, and this is like taking all the wind out of my sails. Put ice on them. I'm in an office. I don't have ice. I'm not just at home. I don't just fucking have ice sitting around, dude. Put ice on them. I can't. Aquaphor. I can't. I don't have that stuff here. Like, you don't understand. I'm in an office. If I was at home, who cares? I have towels. I have fans. I would have everything. It wouldn't matter. I wouldn't care if I spill hot water. Who cares? It's the fact that it's at the office on all my equipment that is like half of the problem here. Oh, mama. Oh, mama. Oh, mama. Why am I overexposed?
That book fucker.
Who knows? I'm dying. Are they big blisters? No. But they hurt. Man. Ow. They hurt pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie. Show us? I'm not sure if it'll even come up. Can you guys see them? You can see the one on this finger for sure starting to go. You can see the one on this finger for sure. It won't focus, but you can see it starting to blister. God damn it. FML, dude. My hair is just a goddamn mess. Oh. I don't know. I'm dying. Bro, the blisters aren't even big, lol. All right. Who said that? Who is it? You want to get banned? You know, the funny thing about Restream.io is that I can't just time you out for 10 minutes. I have to ban you. So don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with me, dude. Hope you don't plan on using those fingers, Book. I mean, that was an important finger. That finger's for all sorts of... Yeah, you use your fingers for all sorts of stuff. I need my hands, dude. What do you mean? I've been burned by water, oil, and metal. Well, cool for you, dude. You didn't learn the same mistake 8 times. But as for me, I'm usually careful. Man, it's unfortunate. All sorts of stuff, yeah. Okay. Let's see. We have a lot we could talk about today. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be what I wanted to do. So whatever. Maybe I should save the motorcycle stuff for another day. Honestly. Yeah. How is everybody though? Let's do some quick catch up. How is everybody? Let's see. Let's do this. Go to here. Just lick your fingers? Sure, dude. What are you up to? I was trying to cook ramen, which I'll set like another 2 minutes on it. Hey Google, set a timer for 2 minutes. I like that it put 10 initially, and then it changed it from 10 to 2. It's like it noticed that I fucked it up. That's pretty intelligent from Google, not gonna lie. Doing good, thanks. That's good, Googles. Book, you really making hard for... What are you talking? You're really making hard for us Europeans. It's 5 a.m. here, and I was so close to going to sleep. Now I see my favorite book boy is on. Well, yeah. Instead of quick catch-up, can we get quick mustard? What does that mean? Also, I'm making it hard in the Europeans because the last few streams have not been dual streamed to YouTube, which means that you don't have really, really good VOD access. Also, somebody DM me, and I don't know if I replied to you or not, saying that oh, I only watch it on YouTube, and could you please do it on YouTube? I'm a patron and everything, and it would be really nice if you did it to YouTube so that I could actually watch the VOD. Because Twitch... despite modern technological innovation, only offers VODs to be transcribed, which means that you get 1080p, 720, 480, whatever. It only does that randomly until you become a partner. which I think is just a shitty way of forcing people into doing partner, which is something I'm avoiding at the moment. So, yeah. So some people just really, really, really want the YouTube VODs because that's the only way that they can consume the content at different like levels. And for some people, depending on the internet in their country or their situation, it's just not feasible to watch things at 1080p. First book stream, yeet. What up, Liam? Liam, it's not your first stream. I recognize you. Only with partner, huh? Yeah, I think so. Consistently at least. Sometimes they'll randomly encode your stuff, but they're like, I make no promises kind of deal. Your streams of Vosh and Destiny were funny because both chats said you're like the marriage counselor trying to make peace. They still don't get your role. It's funny. Yeah. Oh wow, 2 minutes passed really quick. They also think that like I'm a simp for the other person all the time, and it's kind of annoying. Like they're like, you're too charitable, or, oh, I can't believe that he's being this level of charitable. Like, I don't even feel like I'm like bending over backwards most of the time. Like most of the time I feel like if I had like my family in the room with me or like the people I went to school with and I like both sides did this for them, I feel like they would like think it's reasonable. So like one thing that's kind of blown me away about the internet is like the level of charitability on the internet is so low that if you make your thing to like constantly be charitable and constantly trying to like, you know, maintain some sense of like what could be going on, it feels like people just think you're delusional and that you think the impossible is possible and yada yada. When in reality, I feel like a normal, sane adult should probably consider that like things are existing in a way that may be outside of the way that you think of it. So, for instance, if we take one that I think is an easy win for Steven, which is like when he said, hey, if somebody at dinner or whatever has their phone out and they flip their phone or they like turn it just a little bit in a conversation, I feel like they're trying to hide something from me, and I feel like they have something to hide. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but where does your brain go with hiding stuff? Well, if it's a girlfriend, maybe they're cheating on you, or if it's this person, maybe they're like trying to keep you specifically from seeing it, whatever. And I almost feel like in movies and in TV shows, half of the memes are about how the characters, so full of themselves, thought that they figured something out a certain way and they had reasoned it in their head and they have all the evidence from their perspective to prove that it should be that way. But what they're missing is some fundamental key little bit of evidence or some key little bit of interpretation that gives you an equally feasible and actually correct explanation for what happened, right? Like maybe you see the phone and you see them tip it and whatever, and you think it's like all this other stuff, and it winds up being that like they're trying to buy you a gift on Amazon and it's like, hey, it shipped, it arrived. Or they're trying to plan something for you and somebody was like, hey, what does so-and-so want? You know, like it could be 101 things, even if we're still at the assumption we're making that they're trying to hide something, you know? Or it could be, you know, that if they see a notification from a Discord that's like awkward to be in and they're like, oh no, I don't know why I don't have notifications turned on. Like it could just be a million things. And I just don't think people for some reason are like open to, you know, something existing outside of what they could have predicted. Like, oh, that little piece of info, yeah, well, now that I have that, of course it makes sense that it's this way. Would I ever have predicted that? No. Was I like 98% confident in my opinion despite the existence of that one thing that proved it wrong? Yes. And I feel like that's a huge fear that Steven talks about in other chats, right? Where he's like, I worry that right now with my level of confidence and whatever, just as in the past, I'm like super duper confident about the beliefs that I have, but I'm missing like key blind sides. And with those little bits of information, everything will fall apart. And so I at least try to build a system around like, you know, accounting for that. Like, yeah, I'm going to be wrong all the fucking time. I'm going to like believe that I'm 98% confident on something. I'm going to be wrong about it and it's going to happen. And so I try to build a system that allows those bits of information to come in. So I want to encourage people to like, hey, you may have missed this. Hey, you know, you're the guy that's charitable. So-and-so actually said this here, or like, hey, you know, whatever. I'm trying to be open to like extraneous information. That's like a really big rant. First time feels good, man. That's good. First stream, Pepper laugh. First time here feels good, man. Okay, guys. Well, fuck it. I'm gonna stay up a bit longer. All right. Wait, I thought that even apps couldn't do a stream. Technically not, but that's not really enforced. I ended up using your British dude. I ended up using your stream as a reference from my environmental studies class. I don't know how, but okay. That was another one where people got upset that I even checked the sources. People were upset that I even cast doubt on the sources. Never, ever am I ever again going to like levy criticism at anything related to environmental science because people will go nuts. People thought I was anti-nuclear. People thought that I didn't understand about nuclear waste. People thought so much. People thought I don't believe in climate change. People thought I'm trying to like give credence to climate denialism. They thought so much fucking shit after that I'm like, okay, well, this is like a topic that I just can't talk about. So, and you may be like, well, that's not a very good way of handling it. Now that I'm like streaming is like a job, I think it's much easier to just like avoid topics. And that's now on my list of things that I probably want to avoid. Oh God, that thread. Yeah. It's just like, you know, or they're like, you didn't spend enough time. You should have read this. And it's like, I felt like at the time I made clear that when you write these things, you should be writing them for this exact thing, for this happening. And you should, you know, lay out your sources in a way where you know that people are going to check them, because otherwise there's no point in you outlining your sources. The reason that they outlined their sources, they made it publicly available and they gave references and citations in each of their videos when that happens is not because there is a teacher checking it and they need to cross it off of a list. It's so that if somebody wants to fact check them, they can easily do so, right? They're not beholden to some like publisher that's telling them exactly how that needs to happen. They're doing it in a way that should be practical. So practically speaking, in their position, not writing a paper, not you know, doing this for the purpose of allowing people to fact check them, if that's how poorly they laid that out, I think that's fair to criticize. Now, granted, on a different topic, maybe it would have been okay, but because the topic was environmental science, people flipped out, and I'm like, I'm never going to touch that again. Environmental threads were canceled. And you know what was even worse? And one commenter, it seems like, spent the time to try and like look through these sources and actually find this stuff. But all of these people said this shit and they didn't look for it themselves. They didn't find what we were looking for, right? Even the person that gave those things to me didn't find them until they actually pressed through and tried to find them in the papers. And it took a while. So like, you know, again, I still think the criticism stands, right? Because most of it is that they were supposed to lay this out in a way where people could fact check them, and they did the most poor job possible that they could do of that, right? And it's like, and after having a whole apology video where they talked about trying to make that easier for people, trying to be more transparent, they just completely fumbled the ball in a topic that should be fairly important to do that for, on a topic that is going to get speculation and skepticism and criticism from people that don't believe in climate science, from people that don't believe in the effects of pollution, you know, people that aren't me, people that aren't already swayed on that, people that don't already just believe that and will take your word for it, right? So it's just like, I don't know, dude. People really go nuts in environment, like the presentation of the 1.8 million sounded so disingenuous. Yeah, like, and then they're like, well, you can't just say that, you know, you can't just ask questions like, well, why? You don't understand why because you're not in the field. It's like, yeah, so you should explain it. Like when I'm in nursing, okay, and I have to write a paper, do you understand the restrictions that are put upon what I can say and how much of it needs to be tied back to evidence, including in our methodology? Like if I say that they are 12% more likely to like fuck something up or to you know, cause hospital related infections or whatever, I have to like go into it and explain where I got the 12% from. And it can't just be like, well, I'm going to create a hypothetical in which I assume like the craziest thing possible, and then it's going to lead to this. And if you do that, I think it's fair to criticize it. And just because that's normal for your branch of science doesn't mean that it's like not okay for people to criticize, or it's not okay for people to ask questions about it. Like that's the, I don't know. Anywho, I'll drop it, but kind of annoying. Weird that you can't even fact check. Well, no, it's they don't think I did a good enough job of fact checking. That's half of it. They don't think I did enough. And it's like, we spent a good time on it. They acted like I just control F fucking stuff and whatever. And it's like, well, hold on, let's go ahead and pause for 2 seconds, because even if I just control F it, that should be in there. And if Kurzgesagt added up different numbers to arrive at that number, that should have been outlined in their source document. So like, anywho, I want to drop it because I promised somebody that commented on it I would remove the video, I would unlist it, and I would go through it and whatever. So I still need to do that. I'll do that for that one person, and then I'm done with it. I'm just fucking not touching that shit again because it's annoying to me. Moist Cookies, thanks for the subscription. Yeah, I can't argue with a conservative and not be able to show them where I got it from. Makes me look dumb in the end. Sure. I'm getting my bachelor's in environmental science, and it's so fucking annoying making sure I don't bring up personal opinions because I know it's not going to be met with acceptance. What do you mean? Oh, in your field? Maybe, dude. I don't know. Weird that you that feel when your computer won't open up your schoolwork site so you can't do your essay. That's not good. Oh God, that thread. Yeah, can somebody link me that thread? I'm like, oh, no, I shouldn't give more credence to it. Is Book over cooking his ramen now? Yeah, I am. Anyways, what were we supposed to talk about today? We were supposed to do motorcycle stuff, but I guess it's just not happening. Link me. Unlisting the video over that? Well, I think it's fair to unlist it over it. I mean, if the criticisms are wrong and if that stuff is there, I do agree it could do harm and people could use my arguments for stuff that's like unsavory. And so I think like there's no big benefit to keeping it up. It's not like I make I'm not fucking Hassan. I don't make $1 billion off of fucking ad revenue or whatever. It's not that big of a deal to just unlist it. So I unlisted it, whatever. And I won't do it again. I feel like almost every time we go through sources and I do something that like I actually feel confident in doing because my work and like everything I did before streaming should like give me the ability to do it. I get so much fucking pushback from people that I'm like, thank God I never made that my brand, because it like I would turn into a Destiny this quick. I would become so uncharitable with every single person I talk to about anything if that was my brand, because I cannot stand people. I cannot stand that like and these criticisms are not coming from an educated place. They're not coming like how I'm used to them coming from, where like they're citing and sourcing other things and telling me why this is not the case or why this is the case. It's like they're upset with like how I did it, and like they didn't even check it themselves. They don't even have the counterfactual. They don't even know if their criticism is warranted, right? Which would be different if they did, right? But that's not where they're coming from. So it's like. And then I'll ask for it. I'll be like, oh, okay. Hey, I'm DMing you. I saw that you said this in this thread. Like, do you have like the timestamp and then like, you know, what the source was, or even just the source and like a little bit of the quote so I could control F it in the thing? I'm not doing your job for you. You didn't fucking do it the right way and yada, yada, yada. Like, what? Like, you don't even know. You don't even know where it is. You didn't even find it. So it's like, I don't know. I go crazy, dude. I can't stand it. I followed because I thought you sounded like Donkey. I stayed because you're a pretty cool guy. Well, that's cool. Rated PG for OG. That's why I'm personally very okay with dismissing people such sources that don't have a credible backing. Yeah, but I'm not. I try not to do that. But like, I'm one thing I'm having to learn how to do a lot more of is just dismissing people and dismissing arguments and dismissing like lines of questioning. But I feel like it's a very shitter thing to do, to just be super dismissive of people or their arguments, like because of some reason I've come up with. Because remember, I talked about at the beginning of the stream where like I think you can miss like a key bit of information and totally be in the wrong. And I think a lot of the time those key bits of information that are like perspective breaking are going to come from sources that you're not going to feel naturally inclined to listen to. There are going to be ideas that are so far outside of the realm of your like line of thinking that they are able to do that. They are able to actually undermine something that you're working on. And that's why I think that those are helpful to be open to, but they're the most difficult sources of criticism to be open to. And so often it is the case that they are not correct, that I think especially streamers will get in the habit of just shutting those out. And I think since my focus on streaming right now is literally just to make money, I'm okay with that then. I'm just gonna focus on making money and making content. And you know what? If that means that I can't cover environmental science, if that means I can't fact check, whatever. I guess these are like some of the things I'm gonna have to start letting go.
You have to form these opinions yourself. You can't cut to the chase. Drawing your own conclusions is the chase.
It feels bad, but you must pick your battles. They are simply too many to fight yourself. Yeah, that was the other thing, is it's like, this is one of the issues where I stayed up till like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning on my last day in Vegas, and I never ended up sleeping. For mysterious reasons, I love this. Like, thanks for the subs, everybody. Hi, Booksmarts. What's up, Rage Pope? And that's the other thing. I respond to something Rage Pope said, which is that, like, you know, this is just environmental science, and yeah, they're kind of shitters with data. And I was riffing off of it, and people immediately took that as like, Booksmarts doesn't believe in environmental science. Booksmarts believes environmental sources are dumb. But Booksmarts also said he's not an expert in this. Booksmarts doesn't know shit about this. So why does he have such a strong opinion about the field? And it's like, oh my God, like I literally can't touch this because you guys are gonna warp anything. Like if I riff off of the chat, you guys are gonna attack it. If I look at the sources and say, why the fuck isn't this here, you guys are gonna attack it. If I ask a question that's not answered in the methodology, like why did we assume that everything was gonna be turned into coal, or why is that the number that we picked? Doesn't that seem sketchy? That the number of debts that we picked was assuming that we switched everything that was currently nuclear and renewable or whatever to coal? Like, doesn't that seem strange? Like that definitely seems like cherry picking, so you have the biggest number at the very least, right? So like, you know, and I don't know. I don't want to keep ranting about this, because if any of those chatters or commenters sees this, they'll be like, oh my God, he's so disingenuous, whatever. And it's like, I can't, I don't know. I'm frustrated with it. So that's that. As if you're not allowed your own opinion. I don't want to pull the conservative meme of like, you're not allowed to question it, but it feels like you're not allowed to question it. And like, I'm not a dumb fuck. Like, I'm not questioning it as somebody who like doesn't believe in the stuff, or who just wants to cast shade on like an entire branch of science. Like, I'm questioning it as somebody who genuinely doesn't understand why this is the case, and who honestly looked through the document to try to figure out some kind of reasoning behind that. Like, one thing that happens in psychology, so I'll just make a parallel. If that was a similar situation where you chose to switch all of the current nuclear energy to coal, and then count the number of deaths that would have happened, or the number of like disease occurrences, or whatever the fuck, the damage that would be done to people, you're gonna choose, okay, if we stop doing nuclear, let's assume that all the power that was made from nuclear then gets made from coal, and then determine the impact based on that. Normally, what would happen in psychology or history or business or nursing would be, you would reference another time where that decision has been made. So you would say, whether that's in the methodology or, earlier in the lit review portion, you would say, hey, so-and-so and so-and-so have run this test and find that like it is normal to sub this in for this when measuring the impact of like getting rid of nuclear energy or phasing out a nuclear power plant. And if that was the case, I wouldn't have asked that question. I would have been immediately okay with it. So if, for instance, you told me it was industry standard when considering the removal of a nuclear power plant to consider the environmental impact if we had switched that all to 100% coal, and you told me that that has been used in the past in this study, and this study, and in this study, and the government uses it to determine, the risk assessment of removing a nuclear power plant or something like that, then I would be like, oh, okay, cool. I have some kind of like reasoning behind that. But otherwise, like, I don't know. I don't want to keep on this topic, but yeah, maybe I hope it isn't as bad as it seems. We all need smart, reasonable people for those problems. Well, not me. You're invincible when discussing psych, rhetoric, and writing methods. I think people mistook your environmental video as an attempt to seem equally as authoritative on that topic. I didn't see it that way, but some people totally took it wrong. Yeah, so I'm just not going to cover it. And I thought I could get out of that by saying, this isn't what I normally cover. And I thought I mentioned a lot of the time that like, hey, if this was a paper I had to write in a different field, this is completely unacceptable. And if you're going to make a decision like this, you usually have to explain why that is, right? So if I'm gonna be playing around with numbers and like, let's say again, I wrote a lot on hospital on healthcare. Fuck. Let me go ahead and find the exact terminology so people don't fucking bite my head off later. Okay, here we are. Just fucking put this in front of me so I'm A-okay.
He who desires but act not breeds pestilence.
No, not whatever you said, Shock. I'm talking about healthcare associated infections. So a healthcare associated infection is basically going to be that if somebody went into the hospital, right? Like let's say I have an elderly parent, okay? And they need to get taken care of. Let's say my elderly parent, we're going to call her Nana. Let's say that Nana was getting sick. She had a bit of a cough. Yikers. I'm going to go ahead and take her in. And while she's there, they're like, ooh, yeah, she's not feeling too well. We're going to keep her overnight. We're going to keep an eye on her, just make sure nothing's up. And let's say that while she's in the hospital, she gets a different kind of infection. Let's say that, let's actually pick an easier one. Let's say that let's say that Nana was in like a care facility, right? So longer term care. So she's at like a nursing facility. And so they take care of her day in, day out. She sleeps there, she eats there, whatever. Let's say that Nana can't get up and walk around. Well, what happens with people that are bedridden a lot of the time is that you need to take very, very, very good care of them, from everything from their skin to like their muscles to a lot of different things. You need to follow a lot of different procedures to make sure that you don't do extra harm to them. So for instance, if you don't manage moisture levels on their skin and pressure points on their body, you can have all sorts of problems. So if people are bedridden, they're not allowed to move around a ton. That means that places that build up moisture on their body will continue to do so, like unabated by anything. And that starts to cause infections in the skin. Or if they're allowed to just stay in place for too long and you don't move them around or you don't change sheets and things like that, you can start to get pressure ulcers, which I'm sure you guys know about. So you can get a lot of different kinds of like issues that start to pop up, whether that's healthcare associated infections, or I'm pretty sure there was another term specifically for like healthcare associated, problems. A huge thing that I did in nursing for the 2 or 3 graduate students that I helped was helping them view that. So looking at, if I send someone to the hospital, what are some problems that are occurring only because of their treatment that they got at the hospital? What are some failings procedurally that are leading to problems with patients, right? So if there's too much moisture on your skin gets infected, or you start to get rashes and stuff, that's not because of any ailment that you had. That's because healthcare workers in that hospital were not taking good enough care of you. If Nana gets pressure ulcers, that's because the nurses that were taking care of Nana were not moving her around. They weren't checking on her enough. They weren't looking for these things, and they're supposed to. And so the other thing that helps with looking at those kinds of healthcare associated infections or healthcare associated problems are that you can start to see parallels between these infections or these problems in other parts of nursing that are like really, really common to look into nowadays. So one of those would be the effect of shift work on people. So shift work, like essentially, nurses work crazy hours, at least in the US. Sometimes they're working really unnatural hours. So they're having to stay up very, very late at night. And they're doing very, very long shifts. Up until recently, those people working really, really long shifts at night would have very similar length of shift to those who would work in the day, irrespective of the fact that they're operating at night. And so what took a huge amount of studies to even start to push the healthcare industry into changing is in changing that kind of culture, is in making it to where if the nurses are working super late at night, their shift should be shorter because their mental fatigue goes at a much quicker rate. And beyond that, you can't have a nurse work that late at night, one night, and then 2 nights later expect that they can work at a different time of day and be super okay and pretend like we don't understand the effects of not having sleep at that time on subsequent shifts. And so like, a big thing that I did both for business students and for nursing students, because I had, the blessing of working with both of these different people, is for the business students, I talked about how you should be, if you're managing a hospital, you should probably have a system where people can choose the shifts that they're doing, right? So if I know that I don't have to be up early in the morning to take my kids to school, then I can go ahead and take like a super duper late night shift. It's not going to affect my sleep. I can actually go to sleep. But if the hospital chooses to assign shifts to people irrespective of their personal schedule, you can have a nurse who has to work until super early in the morning, but she's a single mom, so then she has to take her kids to school, and then we're further pushing out when she should have gone to sleep, and we're not factoring that on our end when we're giving her shifts. So then if the next day she has to work right after she got up from that like power nap she tried to do to catch back up on sleep, because she still has to pick the kids up from school at like 3 p.m., you can start to see how like this sleep deficit has like a measurable impact. And so one of those measurable impact are these infections, are these healthcare associated problems, right? So you see that as shift work increases and as the nurses are working like unusual hours and fatigue is beginning to set in and affect their performance, you have an increase in things like healthcare associated infections. So, I like, when I was doing stuff like that, if I decided to make a change, like assuming like a 2% figure for like the occurrence of this problem, I would have to justify the shit out of arbitrarily picking the 2% number. Or if I decided to like completely change a variable and assign it to something else, there's so much that has to be done there that I'm surprised that the environmental science stuff we were reading, we're just able to do that with no explanation. And if that's a normal thing, and if you're like Booksmarts, you understand it's not your field, they should have citations explaining why that is the case, or at least linking back to other sources and studies that justify using that as a methodology. And I just didn't see a lot of that when we were looking at it. It really blew me away, and it blew me away to the point where now I know I'm never checking environmental sources again. Believe in all of it, blindly believe in it. I think you should. Obviously, pollution has impacts on people. The other comments I got from commenters were like, where I live, pollution is a problem. I know it impacts people. And it's like, Booksmarts does too. Booksmarts knows pollution impacts people and makes them sick. But what Booksmarts is asking is, how do you measure that at like the societal level, right? And if you're making those measurements as a societal level and you're making that determination over like this huge population, I expect like some kind of explanation behind why that is. But anywho, oh God. Not to mention sleep deprivation increases infection and sickness and overall recovery. Sure, but that's for the patient. That's not for the nurse. I'm mostly talking about from the nurse's perspective. It's called iatrogenic injury. I never used that term, so I have no idea. You appear really tired. You must be working hard. Yeah, I'm tired. Iatrogenic infections usually don't imply hospitalization. Typically, it refers to injury as a side effect of treatment. Yeah, so like, if I'm trying to move you in the bed and you have super duper brittle bones and I fucking pull your fucking hip out as I'm trying to yoink you around, like, I'm pretty sure that's what that is getting at, right? Not necessarily what I'm trying to talk about, but anywho, like with healthcare associated stuff in particular, it's more so just the care that you received at the hospital, like day to day and procedural stuff was not being followed, and that's what led to like problems with you. Like they should have done this thing, but they didn't. I'm pretty sure another really big one, or big ones, are all related to IV. So I forget which hospital had this problem, but I think it was like some kind of cancer research hospital had a huge problem where the nurses weren't following adequate procedure when they were giving like intravenous fluids and stuff like that. And if you're not super careful with making sure everything is sanitized and following proper procedure for that, you can get people sick really, really easily. And if you get an infection from an IV, that can be really, really bad for you, especially if you're in the hospital for another reason. So if you're like an old person and you're sick and then somebody isn't careful with your IV and you get yet another infection, that can really have an impact on your long-term health and can really have an impact on the short-term care you're receiving while you're in the facility. So there's 101 reasons why you want to kind of cut down on healthcare-associated infections or healthcare-associated injuries, because they're completely avoidable. We're meant to follow procedure, and that procedure is meant to save us from these things happening so we don't have compounding problems on top of whatever brought that person in the door. You could go septic real quick. Yeah, like there lots of problems. Let's see. I've been with nurses who don't know how the fuck to find a vein. Sure, but that's different than what I'm talking about, which is like trying to be cleanly and trying to follow the rules. Loves getting people sick with pollution. Yeah, I definitely do. I love the way you explain what words mean and stuff. It helps me understand what's being said. That's cool. One of the things I wanted to explain today, although I probably won't, was somebody in my chat in the Discord was asking questions about like the clutch. And when I was in motorcycle school, so in California, if you're under the age of, I think it's 21 or 22, you have to go through the California Highway Patrol's like motorcycle safety course. And so basically the people that are in charge of policing you go out there and they tell you all the safety things about motorcycles. They tell you how you should behave on the road, what are some good habits to be in, how the bike functions, stuff like that. I think that should be a requirement. That class should be a requirement regardless of the age. I think anybody that gets a motorcycle validation or credit on their license should probably have to go through that. And one of the reasons is, and I'm going to dox DMs right now, is what spurred this was I was talking, I saw the thing about clutches in cars in my Discord, and somebody was asking about clutches, and B, I talked to Too Mad kind of on the side in private, the YouTube guy, and he streams as well on YouTube. I talked to him a lot about like motorcycles and all sorts of other stuff, and he mentioned that he was like, hey, do you think you could pick up the bike that you have? Because I have I think it's like 900 something cc bike. So it's kind of big. And he was like, could you pick it up? And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I could pick up like most any bike because you're supposed to follow a certain way of picking it up. And if you don't follow that way, it's going to be next to impossible, regardless of the size of the bike. And in Japan in particular, and I don't know about other countries, but I know this because it was in an anime. And then I fact checked it. But in Japan in particular, part of the training that you have to get in order to get your license, which is you get different licenses per the size of the motorcycle that you're going to ride, is you have to be able to pick up a motorcycle of the size that you're okay with. So regardless if you're like a tiny, tiny woman or a hypothetical weak person, one of Destiny's analogies, you should be able to lift up a bike if you're going to have a license to ride that bike, right? And there's 101 reasons that you should probably be able to lift up the motorcycle, from like an accident happening to like you know, drop it in a parking lot. You're going to cause a lot of problems for people if you're not able to pick it up on your own. And so I told him, I'm like, well, do you know the right way to pick it up? And he's like, oh, like, I don't know if there is a right way. And this is why I think that like safety courses should be something everybody has to take, because they answer like super duper basic questions. Like, if I drop the bike, this isn't an intuitive thing to be able to pick up with the weight and how it's distributed on it, right? And it has wheels on the bottom too. And you have the clutch, and like there's a million things to worry about. So it's like, you know, I think knowing the answers to this and like teaching them to people is super duper important. And one of the topics was about how the clutch works. So I kind of wanted to take time today to like give an explanation that was given to me that really helped like cement in my brain how a clutch works. Let's do that real quick. Do you work in the motorcycle car industry? No, I do not. I've ridden motorcycles like basically my whole adult life. I had a motorcycle license before I had a car license. And in California, that's such a weird thing that the Department of Motor Vehicles took like 3 days of me like coming in, and then they had to email Sacramento, and they had to like figure out how it would be possible that they don't have me test how to ride a car and how to drive a car before they would give me the motorcycle credit. But technically, the law said that it should be possible to get the motorcycle accreditation before you're able to get the car one. So it ended up being that I did the whole course that you're supposed to do on the car of like stopping at the lights and making the turns and whatever on the motorcycle. Nobody went with me. They told me to go do it and let them know if I messed up any point, any part of the course, and to just come back and be honest. So I went, I drove around the neighborhood, I came back, I told them I did it all, and we're good to go, you know? In all fairness, I did the things that they told me to do, but, you know, anybody could have just lied about it. It's kind of frustrating. Bureaucracy is strange. It most certainly is. Heavy bike, what do you ride? I ride a speed triple. Let's see. Honor system, Lamau. Yeah, it's probably not good. Anywho, when I was in the when I was in like the motorcycle safety course, they kind of have to explain how the clutch works, right? And not in any like technical sense. They had to tell you in a way where you're going to get it being on the motorcycle, because I can explain all the technical stuff to you and that's fine, but that doesn't necessarily translate to like understanding it at an intuitive level in the operation of the thing itself. Let me make sure I'm in frame for this. So let's see. Okay. So let's say that this on the right-hand side here is going to be your, I'm going to say I'm not going to use any terms. So if you know what you're talking about with this, you're going to be very upset at me, but I'm not going to use any terms. You have this thing, I'm going to call it the power arm, okay? You have a power arm. When you spin the gas on the motorcycle, this spins faster and faster and faster, okay? This is where your power is coming from, is this power arm. It's attached to your engine. So when your pistons are going and they're spinning some shit around, this is what they're spinning. This is your main power boy right here. So I turn the gas, this will spin more, okay? Now, there is a separate mechanism in a manual transmission that separates this power delivering bit from a power receiving bit here that goes to your wheels and everything else. So the thing that separates these two elements from each other, I'm going to call your clutch. That is the operation of your clutch. So in a car, that's a pedal that you have. And that pedal, when you push it, disengages these two elements from one another. Okay, so this thing can spin all at once by itself, but if I'm holding down that clutch, it means I'm never engaging it to the wheels, so it's never going to deliver that power to anything. I can yoink on the gas and it can go crazy, but as long as it's not attached to anything, that power is not going anywhere. It's just going to spin itself by itself. Now, when I release the clutch and these two things go back together, now it's delivering the power. If you're in something like a car, and you're trying to learn how to do the transmission, people will tell you that everything is about a balance between the clutch and the gas, right? And the reason is because what's going on here is this is attached to your wheels, right? It's spinning, presumably. Like once you get going, this thing is spinning. And you have to match it with this thing, okay? So when let's say that I'm in first gear, which is the very, very first one. The car's not moving, so this isn't moving. If this has like weak boy energy and I attach these two, when the teeth of this arm hit this thing, they're just going to seize because it doesn't have enough power to then attach and turn this thing. It needs to have enough power to turn the thing, okay? And if it doesn't, then it's just going to seize up, okay? If this is moving way too fast and then it hits, okay, and you're gonna jerk around, okay, and it's gonna be equally uncomfortable for you. So what you need to do is this needs to spin at just the right rate to where when these meet, it's smooth, and then you just continue, okay? Because once these are together, you have no problem. Once these are together, you pull on that throttle, and the thing is going to go forward, right? They're already attached. How am I so far? For the people that understand how to operate a clutch and how to operate a manual, how are we so far? Is this okay? Want to make sure I don't get fucking roasted later. Yeah, so this kind of like imagery for me of this power bit and this receiving bit just as like a fist and a hand was really, really helpful on the motorcycle, because the other part of being on a motorcycle specifically is that the clutch is always the first thing you're going to want to pull in an emergency. So the one thing they would tell us all the time, don't think that your brakes save you for everything. When we're out there on the course, the number one thing you should always start with when you need to disengage power, you need to stop the bike, is pull the clutch all the way in, because no matter what, if you have problems with this power thing, oh man, the bike's going crazy, it's doing this, it's doing that. As long as you disconnect these two, this can spin all at once. If it's not connected to this, it's never going to deliver that power. So that's your first safety. You go ahead and pull that and you're going to be good, okay? Not necessarily flipping the engine switch, not necessarily doing other things, but if you disconnect these two with the clutch, you're going to be okay. That power is never going to go anywhere, right? And one of the things that they did out there to kind of show us, and it's kind of fucked up, is they put somebody on the bike and they wanted to scare the shit out of them. And they were like, so like, let's say you're sitting there and let's say like we're doing something, whatever, and you accidentally push your arm and they grab the clutch of the other hand and they like turned her wrist And the bike was like, man, nah, 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 nah. It was like going crazy, right? Because it's like redlining. This thing is going so fucking fast. But they were holding the clutch and they're like, see, it doesn't matter how scary the bike sounds. It doesn't matter how crazy it is, whatever. This is your number one line of defense. This disconnecting these two things means that the bike is never going to go. It can scream, it can yell all at once, but if these two things are never connected, they're never going to meet. This bike isn't going to go away from you. It's not going to do anything crazy. And like, let's say you're going fast. You need to stop. What's the first thing you should do? Well, you don't want any more power from the bike. You want to take that off of the table right there and then. So you want to disconnect these, and then you want to apply your brakes. Then you want to do other stuff, right? But, you know, all that other stuff is on the receiving end. It's your tires. Your brakes are for your tires, you know, everything else. Your sliding, any other means of stopping you have are on this side. But no matter what, your job is going to be made harder here if you allow these things to connect and you're still driving power to it. So no matter what, you always want to start with that. You always want to disconnect these. And at least for me, that was like a good explanation of how a clutch works. And it helped me kind of understand how in a car, you're balancing the gas and the clutch, and how on a motorcycle, that's how you're operating that too. I'm late. Why are we talking about bikes? I don't know, because the fucking Discord was talking about clutches. Are we discussing sexual intercourse? No. If I want to do an emergency brake, but I don't want the clutch engaged for engine brake, I mean, you could, but for normal people that are just learning how to use the bike for the first time, no. You probably don't want them like learning engine braking and stuff. Like the first thing you're going to want to tell these people, because they don't know what is the correct first instinct, is that first instinct is just clutch. Pull out that clutch, because when we're out there and we're going 2 miles an hour, it doesn't really matter about, engine braking. They're not worried about engine braking when they're going 15 miles an hour. Your brakes are going to stop you. So no, that engine braking wasn't never made like a big focus of this at all. Even later on, it's in the other half of this is because engine braking is going to depend on the engine that you have in the bike. So for instance, with my super duper clunky gearbox that I have in the motorcycle that's outside, the engine braking is so fucking crazy that I've had to start to learn that it's not like the extra 10% or 15% of braking that I had on my sports bike. It's actually like destructive to try and do it that way. It'll stop the bike in such a strange way too that I can't rely on it. And it feels uncomfortable to like let the clutch out just a little bit to try and engage that. I've had to get much more in the habit of maintaining like an okay speed and anticipating braking and learning how to use the brakes for braking much more than using the engine. So that's probably another reason. It's going to depend on the bike that you have, how much like effective engine braking you're able to do. Beyond that, something that because back then I used to Google this stuff all the time because I would worry about it. One thing that was said that kind of stuck with me in forums about engine braking was, remember that there are replaceable parts on your car and motorcycle whose sole purpose is to brake. There are parts on your car which are replaceable whose sole purpose is to stop the car or to stop the motorcycle. So don't be worried about wearing out your brakes. Don't be worried about like using them for the purpose that they're meant to be used for. You probably should lean into those more than you are using the actual engine of the car to try and stop it, right? Or the engine of the bike to try and stop it. And that kind of stuck with me. Like if you fuck up your transmission trying to do engine braking all the time and you get in like a really bad habit of trying to do that stuff, or even if you get in a good habit of like trying to do rev matching, which is basically what I talked about before, where you're trying to like match the speed of this thing to the speed of your wheels, right? So when they come together, they're much nicer and they're more in sync. What you could do is, when you're downshifting with the motorcycle and you're trying to, what this person is talking about with engine braking is as you move down gears and you engage these two things, but you don't give it gas, the wheels which are spinning hit resistance from the engine because the engine is not spinning as fast. And so it's slowly going to slow down the thing in a similar way of brakes. Okay. So it's going to slow down the thing because your power delivery bit is not moving and it's kind of providing some lag to the actual receiving bit. It's providing lag to the vehicle, which is in motion. And depending on the gear that you go to, so like let's say I'm in third gear. So, oh man, I don't want to have to explain all this stuff because I feel like I'm going to lose people very, very quickly. Engine braking impacts the tires 100%. I grabbed hold on, let me read through this. What are we talking about here? We're definitely not talking about anything I wanted to talk about today. I don't think we're going to cover anything I had meant to today. We're just going to rant about motorcycles and I'm going to log out. Engine braking impacts the tires. Okay, hold on. Let me catch back up here. Explain how the clutch works on a bike. Why not? Your brakes can provide more stopping power than the tires can handle already. Yes. Yes, they can. I grab the brakes as I clutch at speed. Okay. So I'm bad. I applied the back brakes a ton, and I had to replace my back brakes more than I do my front brakes a lot of the time. Because I apply the back brake as I'm clutching. Like, I don't know. I my brain feels like it needs to understand how the back end is operating, and I don't know how to explain it. Anywho, I'm gonna move past that part. I'm fucking rambling. Do you have to change gears on a bike? Yes. If so, how do you do it? So, what the commenter was talking about in the Discord was about what people tell them is that it's all about feel or it's about sound. I would agree. When I'm changing the gears on my bike, it's all about the sound. Beyond that, I mean, technically you could look at the RPM, like the indicator for how much turning the engine is doing, how much that powery bit is spinning. But I think that's only helpful as like a second indicator for me. So for instance, one thing that happened on the bike was I was cruising down the highway at about 80, and I look at my RPMs and I'm at about 6,000 on the speed trip. And I'm like, normally the RPMs in my final gear should be at 5,000 and I should be going 80 miles an hour. And so what initially tipped me off to the fact that I was in the wrong gear was not the RPMs. I'm not like meticulously looking at my RPMs all the time. What tipped me off was it sounded like the bike was working harder than it should have. And this is what I mean by like sound and feel are mostly going to be your indicators as you get better at driving these things or riding these things. You'll start to hear, my engine's working harder. And then you go through like a few things in your head. So first of all, is there a problem with the road? Second of all, is there a problem with my brakes or my tires? Third of all, are we on like an incline or something, right? Fourth of all, on a motorcycle at least, is the wind. Sometimes, depending on my riding position, I can make it to where it's going to take more RPMs to get me going because I'm standing up and I'm being buffeted by the wind, or because I'm in the trail of like a semi-truck. These are things that could also have an impact on how much the engine has to work to try to get me going at a certain speed. So anywho, to answer the initial question, do you have to change gears on the bike? Yes. If so, how do you do it? Usually by the sound or by looking at the RPMs, by the feel of the bike. So I noticed that, hey, in different gears, you're kind of able to do different things. So maybe, I don't know how much to explain. This is the problem is like, I've never explained motorcycle stuff to people that don't get motorcycle stuff, so I don't know like where to start or like how much people understand about anything. I mean, the title is Motorcycle Madness and Guns, seems on point. True. You should be able to get through a whole ride without using the rear brake unless you're in heavy traffic or pushing. Yeah, if you choose to rear brake all the time. I mean, if you choose to engine brake all the time. But here's the problem. That's actually just the bit of advice that like it wound me up Googling about braking and stuff, because people tell me dumb bullshit like that. Motorcycle riders will tell you that shit too. Oh, you should never need your rear brakes. You should just get by with your front. If you're not, doing this, then you're not fucking paying attention how fast you should be going and how when you need to stop. Like, yeah, but you shouldn't make a habit out of avoiding your rear brake. And you shouldn't make a habit out of using your engine to brake when there's a part of your car or a part of your vehicle that is designed with that thing in mind. When there's a part of the bike that's designed to stop it at lower speeds, the rear brake, you should use that. And to give people perspective who may not ever ride motorcycles or talk about them, on a motorcycle, your front brake is really, really hard. your front brake will stop that bitch real quick, like to the point where you might flip over the fucking front of it if you grab it too quick. Your front brake works very, very, very good. Your back brake does not work that good. Yeah, your back brake, it slows you at a much slower rate. Okay, now both of these you can lock up, which means that they stop the tire, and you don't want to stop the tire like most of the time. Like 99% of the time, you don't want to stop that either of the tires. So you're kind of playing in this range of like not engaging it at all the way up to like stopping the tire. And given that your front brake is so jerky and it can lead to a really, really, you feel it, the whole bike will go forward when you're pulling on that front brake. Your back brake is better for easing into stops and things like that. So at least for me, sometimes when I'm stopping, or oftentimes when I'm stopping, I'm using the back brake first. And I'm using the back brake while I'm trying to mess around with my with downshifting. And it's usually a combination of these two that is actually stopping me at a light. And I usually don't hit the front brake until like I'm at the last maybe like quarter or half of the stop that I need to make. Now, with the bike that I have out there right now, the Speed Triple, it has a dual front brake thing. So I'm trying to learn how to use the front brake more, but I often don't focus on my front brake. I often use the back brake, mostly because the front brake, if I use it too much, I feel like it leads to a rockier ride. It doesn't have a very consistent stop on it. At least it didn't when I rode my sports bike, and it didn't when I used my BMW. Although on the BMW, if I had ABS on, which is a braking assistance system, then it would be good. Then that front brake was real fucking cool. But both of the brakes are really cool when I have ABS on. Both of them, it just feels like a car where you just push it and you don't really have to think about the balance of things. I'm very focused on the balance of things when I'm on the bike, because if at any point somebody moves, for instance, into my lane and my hand is hovering over the front brake, I can't do something like, for instance, change my speed really quick and go around them. Because what's happened is, here, let me try to let's grab this bad boy here. So on a motorcycle, you have your throttle here and you twist it, right, to make it go. And beyond that, you have your little front brake here, right? So when I'm twisting this, I can't pull on the front brake. I have to put this forward, move over this, and squeeze the whole thing to get the front brake to go. So what that means is if I'm engaging the front brake, I have very, very, very little control over my throttle at that point. The throttle is mostly closed, which also means that you're not able to do things when you're decelerating. So for instance, if I don't have throttle control when I'm decelerating, coming up to a light, and I'm doing what you're saying, and I'm only using my front brake really, that means that I can't rev match. That means that I can't use the downshifting and the engine braking in the most efficient way that's going to be the best for my transmission. I'm not able to ease between different gears to help slow the bike. I'm just clunking them down and hoping that we don't fuck up the transmission there. So I don't understand how you're doing that up to a light. And furthermore, if I'm pulling up to a light and I'm in the habit of always using my front brake, acceleration is off the menu if something bad happens. So like, let's say that somebody was in a lane to the right of me and they go, oh fuck, I actually need to be in the other lane, and they just move at the last second as we're pulling up to the light. I can't accelerate around them or accelerate to the right of them. Acceleration's off the table. And my hand, and this is another thing in motorcycle riding, you don't on your left-hand side, when you have this, your left-hand side, the other lever is your clutch. So often there, you have a finger out over it or something, and you're trying to manage that, right? On the other side, you don't really want to operate your accelerator at the same time as you're using your front brake, because this is like a very weird combination of things, right? So normally, you're either front braking or you're accelerating. You don't really do this like willy-nilly thing, I don't think. And so if you're hovering that front brake and you get into an emergency situation where you need to make a decision and your hands clamp up, your hands are now clamping up over the strongest brake on the entire bit of the bike. And on a brake, if we lock it up, you're not simply going to slide. You're going to go over the front end of your motorcycle, and you're going to be in a world of hurt, even if you avoided crashing into a car. So to hover the front brake is a very dangerous position to be in. And it's one that invites some very critical errors in the braking if you're not careful with it. And that's why, at least in the motorcycle safety course, you learn not to hover the front brake. You learn to get out of the habit of hovering the front brake, because a failure on the front brake is a failure for the entire ride. If your front brake fails and you go over the front end, you're doomed. You have just guaranteed an accident. Now, if you lock up the back while you've lost control of that back tire, the back tire failing is not going to cause 100% of the time an accident. Your front tire locking up will cause you an accident, okay? Unless you are supermanning it with how you're managing the weight distribution on the motorcycle, that front wheel locking up is going to be a lot scarier for you than the back one locking up. So at least for me, that's why I don't handle that way when I'm pulling up the lights and stuff. A woman in my motorcycle course broke her collarbone by grabbing the front brake in a panic and flipping over the top. Yeah. And that's why also they try to teach you about the clutch very early, and that disengaging the clutch should be your first instinct, because hovering the clutch and grabbing that in a panic means that you've immediately cut off power to the engine, which no matter what, if you're trying to stop, is going to be step numero uno and a good one for you. Okay. Whereas if you panic grab the other lever on the right hand side, that's your front brake, and you're going to go up and over, and you're going to be in a world of hurt. Accidental stoppie. Yeah, you don't want an accidental stoppie. For those that don't know motorcycle stuff, a stoppie, if this is your motorcycle, is when your back end comes up but your front end stays down. So if we're cruising around, it's when sometimes these stoppy things, you can kind of do a trick where you keep moving and then you drop it at the end.
Book fucker.
The friend of mine who I lost in that accident up in the mountains, we used to have a fun little game when we first got our bikes where we were trying to learn how to do the stoppy thing and how to manage the weight on the front and how the brake works. And we would freak people out by doing that, by just hitting it a little bit at the end and just coming up and then coming back down. And we would overdo it. So we would do it, and then we'd ragdoll when the back tire hits back on the ground. And I don't know, it was funny. But yeah, that's not something you want to do by accident, because that's going to be a very scary, precarious thing. And the back tire being off of the ground and the front being there, I feel okay, and you can correct me if you're a stunt person, because I don't stunt. I don't do this normally. That feels like I have a lot less control. That feels like a much more precarious situation to have only the front tire on the ground compared to only having the back tire on the ground. Only having the back tire on the ground, I feel a lot more comfortable with than only having my front tire. I'll tell you that. Fucking Happy Wheels. Yeah, there you go. If you play Happy Wheels, you know exactly how motorcycles work. You don't have to learn anything else. You ever worried about lane splitting on the highway? I always worry about lane splitting on the highway, but am I scared the entire time or whatever? No, but I'm very worried about other drivers all the time. In California, beyond filtering, which is when you move in between cars, right? And you kind of if we're all moving and the cars are kind of staggered, filtering is when you're moving between lanes to move between those cars to kind of get forward. Now, lane splitting is different. Lane splitting, when all the cars are stopped, you're pretending as if there is another lane over the lane divider. So those lines that tell you this is lane 1, this is lane 2, whatever. You're going on top of those. You're creating your own lane. You're splitting the lane. And you're allowed to do that whether the cars are stopped or they're going or whatever. You're kind of acting independent of the cars. Now, that some people don't think from the car's perspective when they're riding the bike, and they assume that the cars should be looking out for them and the cars should be creating a space for them to operate in. I don't. I think that you're taking advantage of something that cars are not paying attention to, which is that empty space between the lanes. And so when I'm going, I'm very, very, very like careful about speed. First of all, you should not be passing cars like cars should not be passing you going this fast. Okay. Like you probably shouldn't be going more than like 20 miles an hour faster than the cars around you at any time, like splitting or not. Like I have a pretty solid rule that if I notice that I'm going more than like 10 or 15 miles an hour faster than the cars around me, I slow it down, whether I'm splitting or not. And when you're splitting, that's even more so important, because what happens is if you don't think from the driver's perspective, then you're going to be fucked. So let's say I'm sitting in traffic, okay? And we're kind of going, I'm maybe going like, 5 to 10. I'm like, fuck it. I want to get over into the carpool lane because I want to go fast. Okay. And I'm constantly looking. I'm like, I'm looking in the mirror. I'm going like this, looking in that mirror real quick, or I'm staring at my mirror. When I see people staring at their mirror, that's when I know they're paying the least amount of attention, as funny as that sounds, because the person staring in their mirror or constantly looking at it wants to come over to the left. I know that they're already going to be a problem for me splitting the lane because they have an intention that is, what is it called? That is completely counter to what I want to do, because by moving lanes, they're going to break the split. They're going to cause a disruption in that empty space between the lanes. So when somebody's constantly looking over and whatever, they're not looking for you. And this is a problem I've heard from other motorcyclists. I shit you not, I've had at least 2 people in real life tell me that they saw that the person that hit them was looking in their mirror. And they're like, what do you mean you didn't see me? You were looking at your mirror. I saw you. And it's like, so why didn't you slow down if you saw that they were looking at you? And they're like, Booksmarts, you're crazy. She was looking at her mirror. What do you mean? If anything, that's my greatest indicator that I can pass them because they're looking. They know I'm there. And it's like, you're not thinking from the car's perspective. Why do you think they're looking? Because they want to turn. They're not looking to see if there is a bike there. They're looking to see if there's a car there. They're looking to see if a car will get in their way. They're not checking for motorcyclists. They're checking for cars. So if they're looking for a car and they're looking for a space, which is, if we're really being uncharitable, is more likely what they're looking for. They're looking for their opportunity to jump in. They're not looking to see if a car is blocking it. A slight change, but like a meaningful one in my opinion. They're looking for an empty space. They're not even really looking to see if a car is there. If they're looking for that, they're not looking in that lane that you're creating. They're not looking at the extra split lane. They're looking for cars. And so, when they're doing that, they're going to jump at the first opportunity because they think everybody's an asshole and everybody's trying to cut them off. They're going to jump at the first opportunity of an empty space. And an empty space is likely when you're going to be the most likely to accelerate and to go faster because there's not a car on that side to block you. So you may even go into the left more than the right. Like, oh, okay, there's a space there. I don't need to be crowding up on the cars on my right, so I'm going to go to the left a little bit. Which, when you do that, again, they're not looking there. They're not even looking inside of your third lane. They're looking at the lane to the left. Also, seeing a bike is a little harder than seeing a car. Yeah, we're setting aside that. Like, it's difficult in and of itself. But to fool yourself into thinking they're looking for motorcyclists when they're looking in their mirror is deadly. That is a deadly mistake to make. Way harder. Even riders miss bikers sometimes. I miss bikers all the time. So, like that's the other thing. When I'm lane splitting, I'm more afraid of other motorcyclists in either of those lanes than I am the cars. And sometimes people are surprised to hear that. But motorcyclists pay the least amount of attention to other motorcyclists in splits. Motorcyclists pay the least amount of attention to their lane position, I find, a lot of the time. And by lane position, I mean, in a motorcycle, when you're on a motorcycle, you have more things you need to pay attention to in terms of your position in a lane. So you're, unlike a car, able to take up like any number of a sliver of that lane. You can be in the middle, you can be in the middle left, the middle right, the far left, the far right, or in the case of California, on the left, middle, and right of those lane dividers as well, which are, in my opinion, their own position. So I can be to the left of those lane markers and the lane dividers and the little bumps in the road. I can be to the right of it, or I could be right on top of them, right? So you have a myriad of options with where you could put those tires of your bike and where you could put like the entire profile of the motorcycle. And I find that other motorcyclists don't pay attention to this. So if there are 2 lanes, let's say on the far left in America of the road, where the carpool lane is, the very fast lane, other motorcyclists sometimes don't have the courtesy when they're not lane splitting of going to the farthest left portion of the lane that they can. And so sometimes what will happen is motorcyclists will still stay in the middle, which is terrifying, or to the right of the middle of the lane. And what that means is, as I'm splitting and they're not, and I come up towards them, they are used to being where I am. So they don't feel uncomfortable. Lights don't flash in their brain to tell them that they're in a bad spot if they start to get close to that lane marker. So people drift. If you're not paying attention to your lane position and you're going through curves and things like that on the freeway, you're just kind of slowly meandering. Oh, I'm on the left. Oh, but now we're making a right turn. It's more comfortable to be on the inside of a right turn. So instead of being at lane position 1 on the far, far left of the lane, now I'm at the very, very far right. Maybe I'm even on top of the line. So all of a sudden I'm interrupting somebody's split, right? And you can see how that immediately causes problems. Like, you know, and the other thing is, motorcyclists have object fixation, which means that the motorcycle will go where you look. So a problem that you may see in some accidents, especially in turns, is if you're turning the motorcycle and you're in a very, very hard lean, you need to be looking into the turn. So if you have a curve, you need to be looking at like where the bike will be in the next like 2 or 3 seconds in that curve. You need to be looking ahead all the time. The entire time that you're going, you need to be looking ahead. You cannot look forward. If you look forward, the bike will go forward. So if there's a sign, if there is a parked car, if there is any kind of distraction on a curve, a motorcyclist, if they choose to look at that, will automatically start to bring the bike over in the direction of that thing. And that's what object fixation is that when you start to look at something, you tunnel vision in and the bike will follow where your eyes go. That's also why sometimes you'll see motorcyclists crash into signs. But what I'm trying to get at here is that also applies to your mirror. When a motorcyclist sees me in their mirror and they look to the right, the bike starts to go to the right. And so a motorcyclist looking at me in their right-hand mirror when I'm trying to split past them may start to go over to the right as they're looking at me, okay? And they begin to impede upon my split. And I see that a lot, especially with new riders, because they're not paying attention to the object fixation thing. They're not countering with their hands. So when I check lanes or when I check that I need to go to the right or to the left, I am immediately very conscious of A, what is in front of me for the next 5 seconds, and B, I make sure that I'm pushing extra on the handlebars opposite of where I'm looking. So for instance, if I'm in that situation where I'm looking at a rider on my right, I'll often push harder with my left hand to make sure that the bike is countering for the look. And that sounds scary to some riders, but you should probably do that because it's difficult to know how much that looking is impacting the direction that the bike is going. So you should try to counter that in whatever way you can. I do that by just pushing a little bit more. And then I find that by the time I look back, it's corrected for that. If I don't do that, I will often find that my position has changed. If it hasn't changed from the far left all the way to the far right, it will often have changed from the far left to the middle at the very least. Another thing that will happen is people are looking at you and they're not looking at what's in front of them. Okay, so even if the car or the motorcyclist sees you, them seeing you means that they are distracted from what is in front of them, which means that they can get in accidents. I've had one time on the freeway where I noticed that a dude in stop and go traffic was looking at my bike and was looking at me dancing and stuff because I was like listening to music. I feel so bad about this. I was listening to music and I was playing around on the bike and I noticed that this dude was like staring at me the whole time and I'm like, that's funky, whatever. And I'm like, I'm jigging with it and he's fucking staring at me. And a couple of cars ahead of him, somebody stopped very quick. And because he's looking at me in his mirror, whack, he fucking crashes because he's not looking in front of him and he's not accounting for what's going on in front of him. There's like so many problems with motorcyclists and cars. I could go on all day about stuff like this. Like, man. Object fixation. I was a passenger in a car accident where the driver was in this huge ass field and drove into the one lonely little sign. Yeah, I think it's a thing for cars as well, but I know for sure it's that way with motorcycles. You should listen to it. It has great audio. Shut the fuck up, David. God damn it. I'm super ignorant to this, but don't you feel like this just makes the already dangerous roads even more hazardous when one vehicle has a different set of rules compared to the rest? No, because the thing is, motorcycles are much safer being in that split lane, especially when we come up to a light, than being in the actual lane proper. I think that the onus should be on drivers to learn how motorcycles incorporate into the road, because there are many benefits to having motorcyclists on the road. Because if we follow your logic here, motorcyclists maybe just shouldn't exist. Maybe everybody should be in cars. That way everybody is accounting for cars. Maybe there shouldn't be trucks on the road, because trucks also provide their own kinds of problems for you, right? You have to think differently about where they can see you. As a driver, you're already expected to anticipate, for instance, blind spots of truckers, right? You understand that their mirrors only work certain ways, and there's entire blind spots, right? Blind spots that you should be aware of and you shouldn't be hanging out in, such as immediately behind it, or diagonally to the left, or diagonally to the right. Or right beneath the cabin of the truck, right? There are places that you don't want to be because you know that the truckers can't see you. And in much the same way that you're supposed to learn about that and account for that as a driver on the road, I think that you should learn and account for motorcyclists as well. One claim that gets pushed back a lot of the time is motorcyclists are safer in that split lane. And a lot of the time this applies for lights. So if I'm stopped at a light and I'm in the middle of a normal lane and the person behind me isn't paying attention, rear ends me, being rear-ended on a motorcycle is unfortunately a really tragic thing. A lot of motorcyclists get very, very hurt getting rear-ended. Because unlike a car where you have a fender bender and it's A-okay, you could literally run me over with your entire car at a low speed and break like all the bones of my body. And beyond that, like, it's not just you pushing me against the ground that could break my bones and hurt me. It's you pushing me into the metal of my own motorcycle. So, for instance, when you're on a motorcycle, and this is something I would advise people to do, you should probably buy frame sliders. And what these are they're things attached to the frame of the motorcycle, these bars that go out beyond the profile of the bike, so that when you tip the bike over and it falls on top of you, there's space between the motorcycle and the ground so that you don't get crushed by the bike. Now, I know that it's also for the aesthetics of protecting the sides of your bike so that they don't get scratched up, but in my opinion, the safety benefit is that the bike will not crush you, okay? It's going to crush on top of the frame slider, and it's going to put all that weight there. It'll give you that extra little bit of space between the bike and the ground. Because otherwise, let's say a car hits you and it runs the bike over, it's now crushing you between not only the weight of the car in the road, but your own motorcycle, okay? And depending on the way you mangle, that can be really, really, really bad for you, right? Likewise, if they hit you and the bike turns and you get squished between the next car in front of you and your motorcycle, legs break, ankles break all the time, feet break an awful lot. And some of this can be avoided if you just had a frame slider in certain instances. So anywho, in terms of why is lane splitting good? Because if a drivers aren't paying attention for motorcyclists. Sometimes drivers will not even see a motorcyclist. They will think there is another car space between them and the one in front of them. There are times, and I have talked to people, this has happened, they get rear-ended by a car that said, honestly, I did not even see it. There was a motorcycle in that space. I honestly thought I just had a ton more room between me and the car in front of me. Or if you're texting, okay, and you like pull up to a light and you're like, okay, it's a red light. And you pull up your phone, which people do all the time. I'm at a red light. It's okay. And you're pulling up. Your periphery is telling you how far you have until the car in front of you, not actually paying attention. So as you're pulling up to the car in front of you, you think you have more space than you do because a motorcycle is occupying a space that you normally don't pay attention to. And you hit them thinking that you had more space than you have between you and the car in front of you. So anywho, I hope I've sold you that a lot of people rear end motorcyclists at lights. And the way that you avoid that, and this gets back to a point somebody else brought up about why don't we just maybe motorcyclists shouldn't do that. Maybe because we can't worry about motorcyclists. Well, then a motorcyclist should be out of your way in that center lane where you shouldn't be at a traffic light. Nobody pulls up to a traffic light splitting the lane on top of the lane marker, right? Lane markers are always guiding where your car should be when you pull up to a light. And that's a benefit for motorcyclists because what it means is, out of force of habit or otherwise, you're never going to be on top of that space. So even if you don't see me, even if you don't notice me, you're not going to hit me because I'm somewhere where cars are never, ever going to be. And the only other people that are going to be there are other motorcyclists who are already paying attention to me, right? And so that means that motorcyclists are not being rear-ended in traffic accidents, which to be rear-ended as a motorcyclist, like we've talked about, is a much more terrifying thing, even at low speeds, and could be a lot more disastrous for the motorcyclist than it would be for somebody in a car, where that's just a fender bender. So at the very least, for traffic lights and things like that, that's why lane splitting is good. Setting aside freeways, where again, the same rules in terms of rear-ending people and not paying attention to how much space you have or not stopping in time. These are things where if you hit a car and you rear-end it, you're going to be okay. Both the driver and the person in the other car are going to be okay. But if you rear-end a motorcyclist because you couldn't stop quick enough and they were in the middle of the lane, that is an awful lot worse. And you're probably going to kill that motorcyclist. Or you're going to severely injure them. Thoughts on bicyclists on roads? I'm fine with bicyclists on roads as long as they follow the rules. I think the problem with bicyclists is they don't follow the rules. They don't stop at red lights or stop signs. They occupy spaces they shouldn't be. Similar to motorcyclists, they don't pay attention to their lane position a lot of the time. I think bicyclists are just dangerous because they don't pay attention to the law more than, by nature of what they are. Anywho. Thanks for all the followers, guys. Was there a raid that I missed, or are you guys just all following at once? My dad died in a motorcycle accident. I'm sorry to hear that, First Principles. That fucking sucks, dude. I guess I just don't know many bikers. This is super insightful, though. Like, I'm super ignorant. Yeah, and that's fine. Like, I don't expect people to just know this stuff. And that's part of why I wanted to talk about this. Is I don't know if other people cover those subjects. Especially on Twitch. Destiny just went AFK for a second. That might be it. Okay. Well, to DGGers, what's up? Are you duo streaming? Yeah. I just came. What's happening with bikes and guns? Well, initially today I wanted to cover like some motorcycle videos that I liked, talking about counter steering, which I feel like is a very complicated and difficult to communicate thing. I was saying how I was talking with Too Mad, YouTuber content creator dude, about motorcycles and about how I think the motorcycle safety courses are something everybody should have to take because they teach you really counterintuitive things about the bike and about the machine that I don't think you're going to learn. One of the things that came up in conversation with him was about picking up the bike if you were to drop it. He was talking about how even though he rides a much smaller motorcycle, about a third or whatever of the size of my motorcycle, about a third to a fifth the size. He was going to struggle to pick that thing up if he dropped it. But I told him I'm pretty confident with the size of the bike that I have, which is like a 900 something cc motor, that I would be able to pick the entire thing up because you're taught how to pick the things up. And there's a way that you have to pick it up that is going to make it to where any regular person, I would say, at the very least with the assistance of one other person, following the correct way of picking up a bike, will be able to pick it up. But if you don't, if you're reaching over it and trying to fucking yank it, or you're trying to push, or, if you're doing any number of other ways that you could try to approach the problem, you're not going to be able to do it. It's one of those things where you have to learn what the technique is, because the technique will save you here. It'll save your back. It'll save your bike. There's a lot of things like that for motorcycles. And so a safety course should be something, in my opinion, that should be required for all motorcyclists to do. But I'm crazy. I honestly think that if you get your license, you should have to learn how motorcycles operate, and you should have to learn some idea of what it's like to be behind the handlebars of a motorcycle, because I think that could be an experience that is game changing for you in a car later. So, you know, if you see motorcyclists on the road, you have some intuitive idea of how braking works, of how the clutch works, of how lane position works, of what they're paying attention to, of how loud it is. You're kind of aware of things that I can't even teach in a class, right? If you were to just learn how it works and to go ride it for a little bit, you would know so much more than the average Joe or even somebody that read about it, that like that would have a measurable impact on your driving experience, in my opinion. So I have pretty high standards for like what people should learn before they're put in, you know, put in a position where they can operate one of these. But that's just me. Hold on, let me go back to my restream chat. Requirements vary by state. Surprised it isn't mandatory in the state the only state that allows lane splitting. Yeah, you would think. No, they just wait until you're old enough. The optimal bike lifting how the fuck did that interaction come about? We like just talk about like motorcycles and stuff. Like I think he recently got like a second motorcycle, and I recently got my my new motorcycle, so we're just talking about bikes. I've seen a bunch of videos of people trying to pick up a bike and accelerating on accident and crashing again. Yeah, like with like scooters and stuff, especially. Yeah, because you want to grab those handlebars and you're not paying attention to like if the bike is on or if it's on idle or whatever. I've seen sport bike riders do this too. Like freaking out because you drop the bike, now your heart's pounding, you just want to like pick it up and pretend like it didn't happen. If you don't make sure the bike turned off, or you don't switch the key off, or at least make sure it's not in gear, if you go pulling that and you put a bunch of force and you're yoinking, you're doing this yoink, you know, and you're grabbing both the handlebars, you're reaching around and you yoink, then that yoink is gonna yoink, you know. So you definitely don't want to do that. After hearing you talk about, I agree. Like you said, we learn about semi-trucks and such, but I was only ever told to look twice for motorcycles, and that's kind of where it stopped. Yeah, which is unfortunate because it's like, doesn't really help you, right? Yeah. I couldn't drive manual until I understood how it worked. I feel like that. I had a really hard time with the motorcycle until I learned how like everything operated. How did you even meet Too Mad? You two are in totally different online universes. He was in like another group that I joined with other content creators, and we got to talking. We kind of like each other. I've seen a bunch of videos trying to pick up a butt. Yeah. So as far as that is, let me go ahead and catch up on some older chats here. You ever see YouTuber Snowcat's accident? Snowcat's a bit of an asshole. I try not to consume any more of Snowcat's content because I think that Snowcat, I liked him when I first started riding, but I feel like Snowcat encourages behavior on a motorcycle that I think is unacceptable. For instance, criticizing the other drivers around you. I thought that was really funny and fun to do when I was first starting out on a bike. But after having ridden for a few years, I feel like that's something you shouldn't encourage people to do, because number one, you should be fully focused on how you're operating the motorcycle. And that should take so much of your attention to avoid accidents and stuff that you should not have the free time or mental capacity to like go and critique the driver of the driving of other people. And if that's taking up so much of your attention inside of that helmet that you're making jokes, or you're thinking about how you're going to come up to them and yell something at them, or you're going to be talking shit, I think that takes so much mental processing away from what you're doing, which is in reality a very dangerous thing, that I think that could cause accidents for a lot of people, or fights or other things. And beyond that, oh man, let's talk. FortNine has a really good video. FortNine. On anger on the motorcycle. I like the explanation that he gives, which is that motorcyclists, unlike people in cars, are out in the open. Everybody can see everything that I do. Like I talked before about the dancing. When I'm dancing on the motorcycle, everybody can see me. When I'm dancing in my car, people aren't really noticing that, right? Unless you're like right next to me and maybe you make fun of me. But when I'm dancing on the bike, I'm a spectacle for other drivers to behold, because when I'm on the bike at all, it's kind of a new thing and people are paying attention to it, let alone if I'm goofing off on the back of my bike, right? So When you're doing stuff like that, you are an eye catcher for people, and that is both like funny and dangerous, right? Because when you're upset or something, that can also come across. Let's go ahead and watch this video. I think it's really, really good. Okay. Yeah, because I think this will be a good watch for us here. This is by a YouTube channel called FortNine. I really like it. Very high quality motorcycle videos. I feel like you should be very, very aware of what others are doing as well. You should, but you shouldn't be wasting mental energy criticizing them, coming up with jokes, telling them to their face. You shouldn't be doing that.
This. For mysterious reasons, I love this.
Thanks for the sub. And to everybody else before for the follows and subs. I appreciate them. Oh, Potato Band Plug. Is that the alt? Wait, did I get followed by Potato Band Plug? What the fuck? Also, hi, KYL. I'm having a great day. All right, let's go ahead and watch this.
I've got the old soul, you know, feeling caught my sweetest gone. I mean, I've got it bad. I'm trying to make believe.
This frickin' guy.
How will this guy do?
Huh? What? What are you gonna do? Come on. What?
I feel angry.
But not alone.
Road rage fatalities are blooming. 80 in 2006, 467 in 2015. A 500% swell. Busy roads are overrepresented. Tighter traffic, more bloodshed. In cars, it's not so bad. At best, we'll get a full vehicle width apart. Even then, I'll have to wait a couple blocks before I can find room at a red light to yell at you. Maybe by then I realize how fundamentally hopeless traffic debates are. But motorcycles can inch right next to cars to answer the call before it dies. But wait, I can be inches apart in the lineup at Disneyland, and I don't hurl obscenities at the 7-year-old next to me. The difference, and this is the psychologist's idea, is objectification. We don't fight people, we fight traffic. We say, damn it, that maroon Golf cut me off. Our conceptualization makes it easier to hate the object than the fellow inside it, and again, this is worse for motorcyclists. Because the objectified biker's a loaded concept, I'm the Hell's Angel who dealt drugs to your daughter, the loud pipe prick who woke you at 3 a.m., the lane splitter who always got there first. Make a motorcyclist an object, and they become the object of your past prejudice.
Like, this is not something I personally focused on in my discussion, but another thing you have to contend with being a motorcyclist is there are people that don't like motorcyclists, and it comes off in the way that they drive. There are people when I'm lane splitting who, when they see me and they look at me in the mirror, move over on purpose and then purposefully don't look anymore. And then they make sure they maintain positioning to where they're blocking me. A lot of the time, I've found that this is people in trucks. They'll do this. And so you have to contend with not only drivers making mistakes, but you have to deal with the fact that drivers may have preconceived notions of what you're doing. I've had people who have pulled up to me next to me at a light and told me, hey, what you're doing right now is so reckless. This fucking lane splitting shit is unacceptable and blah, blah, blah. You're going to get yourself killed doing shit like that. Like, they don't know what I told you about the accidents and the rear ending and how this is much safer, like statistically, right? They don't know all that. And this isn't the moment for like a nuanced discussion. And I can't have that with every driver. So especially when you're lane splitting, you're engaged in activity which a lot of Californians don't like. A lot of Californians think it's needlessly unsafe. A lot of Californians think even beyond that motorcyclists are cheating. Motorcyclists are just always in a hurry. They're trying to get ahead of everybody else. Motorcyclists are always trying to break the rules, right? And so all of this thinking is, influencing how they're engaging with you on the road and kind of actions that they're taking, right?
And what do we see when we see you?
Frickin' moron.
The cagers are always out to kill us.
And this, again, is why I have a problem with Snowcat now that I'm a more experienced writer, is Snowcat and other motovlogger people on YouTube, other people in his genre kind of make content out of confronting drivers or critiquing their ability on the road. They make compilations of not only accidents like he's watching here, but of road rage videos where they kind of encourage you to confront drivers about that, to make jokes at them, to pull up to them at lights, to comment on the fact that they have their phone on, things like this. They get you into really, really bad habits that could get you in fights or worse. A car can be patient. A car can see that you told some shit to them on the freeway way before, and they can sneak up to you and just bump you. All it takes is a little side swipe, and then you wobble, and then you eat shit, and you're dead at 80 miles an hour, right? And they can keep going. And unless somebody saw, stopped, got their plate, and reported them, they got away with it. So you have to be worried on a bike, because at least when I'm on the motorcycle, after my very first accident where somebody hit me, I thought, everybody on the road has the ability to kill me at any time. Anybody that gets upset at me, it's like they have a loaded gun in their hand. They have the ability to cut off my life support. They have the ability to kill me. And so something that I try to keep in mind in the forefront of my brain when somebody does something that's bad on the road is I try to keep in mind that depending on how I handle this person has that option on the table. They can kill me. And they can kill me at any time. It doesn't have to be right now. It could be in the future, and if somebody is crazy enough to make the jump to try to kill me on the motorcycle, they're crazy enough to wait. They're crazy enough to wait till I get ahead, give me no indication of it, and hit me later. They're crazy enough to do a brake check on me, cause me to run into them and then drive off. They're crazy enough to do these things. And so that's something you want to keep in mind. But beyond that, what he's trying to get at here is, as a motorcyclist, especially starting out, you're going to watch a lot of accident videos. If you have that kind of macabre interest, you're going to see a lot of instances of other motorcyclists getting into accidents. You're going to see a lot of the time that is the car's fault. And even when the motorcyclist could be found somewhat at fault for it, such as lane splitting at too high of a speed, oftentimes it'll still be the driver that gets kind of in trouble for it. And that's because these motorcyclists are posting these videos after the fact. And I remember one time I got in a really awkward interaction with somebody at a coffee shop. One of our friends had recently gotten a bike, and having been on group rides with him, I knew that he was irresponsible when we would split lanes. He would split maybe 30 or 40 miles an hour faster in traffic at times. When traffic would be stopped completely on the freeway, he would feel comfortable going maybe 45 to 50 miles an hour through that. Which like even saying it, blows me away that somebody would be willing to take that risk. But essentially, and he had video of this, what had happened was he was splitting in stop traffic. And like I said before to you guys, if somebody is looking to change lanes, they're not looking for motorcyclists. They're not looking for cars. They're looking for openings. And there was an opening. And this opening was created by another driver to the right of them. So the driver saw that this person wants to get over. They noticed that they were looking, didn't have a blinker on, but they knew they wanted to do that. So they stopped traffic in front of them, gave them a gap, and this person was then slowly going into that gap. Well, they're slowly going into it, but our rider is going maybe 40, 45 miles an hour in stop traffic. So to the rider, to the driver in the car who is moving at 0 miles an hour, and who's just listening to their music, and the person next to them is being nice. Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks for letting me in. Okay, cool. And they start going. As they're turning the wheel, they look, right? Because I've already checked. I got nobody here. Traffic is stopped. Everybody knows what I want to do. The opening's there. All right, I'm going to start turning my wheel and giving gas as I'm looking. And unfortunately, while they're moving at 0 miles an hour and their brain is moving at 0 miles an hour, your brain is moving at 45. You're passing cars like, you can't respond. And in my opinion, that's your fault. That's your fault for going so fast that you can't respond to a change in traffic. In my opinion, if somebody chooses to end my split by cutting across lanes, I think that at any point, 1 to 2 cars in front of me, I should be able to respond to that immediately by decelerating, by finding a new place in either of the lanes next to me, by getting out of the position of splitting the lane. And I think that if you're moving so fast that if 2 to 3 cars in front of you, somebody blocks your split, that would put you into an accident. In my opinion, you're going too fast. So that's often frustrating when I do group rides with other riders because they feel very comfortable going maybe even 30 miles an hour through stopped traffic. Whereas I go 15, maybe 20 at the most, because I need to respond to somebody coming over 2 to 3 cars ahead of me. I need to have room to stop. When traffic is stopped, one of the options that you lose, and I actually think there's 2 options that you lose, is moving into the left lane or moving into the right lane. When you're filtering, when there is space in between the cars, at any point, you can decelerate to the point of traffic and move over to occupy the space that's in between cars. So if I'm splitting the lane and I see that somebody is going to block my split, I can move into the left lane or the right lane, depending on which one has a space, decelerate to the point of traffic, and hang out until that person finishes moving over. I don't give them shit about it either. It's fine. People are going to miss it. Like, don't get upset at that. But anyways, you have that option. When traffic is stopped, you don't have a gap you can move into. You can't decelerate to the point of traffic and find a space. You have to stop. And if you're not able to stop and react to the speed of the traffic around you, you're moving too fast, right? And motorcyclists treat splitting in a situation where traffic is stopped the exact same as splitting in a situation where traffic is moving. And I think that that's another like fatal error I see, especially in newer motorcyclists. And it's something that is like an ideology thing. It's all about like how they're looking at things in the moment. And I feel like that's another thing where if you get into motorcycles and you start splitting or filtering or whatever, think about that. Think about how your options change in these 2 different situations where traffic is stopped or when traffic is moving.
So goes the motorcycle motto for staying sharp in traffic. But I blame motovloggers for taking this too far.
God damn it, Mom.
All right, let's see what idiots can't drive today. Get off your phone. Put your phone down.
That right there is Snowcat. I know it says V-Rod down here, but this person talking is Snowcat. I'm like 99% sure. Snowcat's known for this. Snowcat, who has been mentioned in the chat, is known for being a guy who criticizes other drivers. He's a motorcyclist from, I believe it's not Alberta. It's somewhere else in Canada. It starts with a C. Maybe a viewer could help me. I'm pretty sure it starts with a C. It's some place in Canada where all the drivers are... Calgary. There we go. Calgary. The fucking drivers there are awful, at least based on his videos. So he'll make fun of people all the time, and he makes a lot of content out of it. But unfortunately, that feeds into a culture of upcoming motorcyclists and young people who are going to then repeat those things and think that they're normal in their own lives.
Put down your fucking phone. You're in your car.
No, that's not him. Sounds like him, huh? Sounds like the Canadian.
Yo, this guy really likes cutting fucking people off. This is the second fucking time. Pussy guy, fuck you. Bastard with these lights.
Hey, man, I don't want to fucking talk. Stop it.
Then don't cut people off. I'm making a point out of you.
What's up, dude? Fuck's wrong with you? I got you on camera, bitch. Yeah. Get his break.
Hunting for altercations is a great way to get views. actually, it's a shitty, cheap way to get views, because now we have a generation of impressionable riders who think it's their responsibility to correct people's driving.
Maybe you are correct, but a few pounds of meat starting an argument with a few tons of steel will never be correct. Maybe you had the right of way. Ask the insect on your car's bumper whether it had the right of way.
This bird has been flying in blind spot areas that our radar can't pick up.
So what do? Nothing. Traffic captives are liable to pull one of these, or even these, but such passing effects are rarely picked up from one car to another. However, biker body language is on display. We are not afforded the private emotions of most, so we need to be better than most. Unreactive, fire retardant, Buddha, do nothing. It's as easy as that, and as difficult as that.
This frick guy.
What the hell is this?
Rage passes. It's only a moment. My God, that was only a moment.
When I'm smiling, when I ought to be sighing, should be crying, or a little bit of
There you go. Public service announcement from FortNine. For anybody that doesn't know about FortNine, they make really good videos. Whether you're a motorcyclist or not, you may even find interest just like binging their content since it's really well produced and thought out. But yeah, the reason why we're talking about this is we're just generally talking about motorcycles, motorcycle safety, and operating motorcycles today on the stream. Yeah, I would highly recommend them. They're really cool. What'd you guys think? Don the fireman makes great rider safety content. Dan the fireman. Let's see, Dan the fireman. But yeah, let's see. Dan the fireman. I'll have to look at their stuff in the future. Very well produced video. Yeah, I think it's really good stuff. I never realized how much I hate motorcyclists. Thanks for awakening this awareness. Oh, no, that's not good at all. Really interesting as someone that knows nothing about bikes. Yeah, that's what I hope. Motorcycling is one of those interesting things where I think unless you do it, you probably don't know anything about it. Like, even if you have like a brother or a sister or a mom or a dad that motorcycles, it doesn't necessarily mean that by extension you understand anything about it either. Especially technically how the bike works or how lane positioning works or things like that, right? My brother was in a real bad motorcycle accident when he was in his early 20s. He had a 1 in 10 chance of surviving. That's crazy. Free organs, in my opinion. Yeah, maybe, dude. So, you know, everyone except me drives like shit, to be honest, and even I am questionable. Yeah, like everybody's a bad driver, and that's another thing is like, oh man, I've had so many arguments about this shit with other motorcyclists, and what's crazy is that they argue with me. Like, I find it nuts that they can't just argue in favor of safety. Like, when I'm telling them, like, hey, I don't think you should be splitting going that fast. Like, I don't think we should be going that much faster in traffic. A lot of the time, those are in response to people giving me shit. I know I've mentioned this before on stream. I'll just reiterate again for anybody that's new here. I had a pretty impactful moment in my motorcycling career when a friend of mine passed away on a ride. What had happened was we went up to the mountain. We had a really fun time doing a bunch of mountain riding. And when we were coming down into the town at the base of the mountain, there's quite a big hill. And then there's a turn right at that hill. And what had happened was he was going so fast that he couldn't negotiate that turn without dipping into oncoming traffic. Now, normally, if the road is empty, that's super yikes, but it's not deadly, right? You can dip onto the double yellow or even into the other lane so long as there's not a car there. It's not going to kill you, but that's a major warning that you're not looking at your speed relative to how you're operating the bike. Another problem that it presents is when you're pushing things that close to where you need every inch of the road to try and negotiate a turn. Remember how we talked about object fixation. Imagine that you're thinking that life is a video game and you're pushing every single one of these turns to the very max that you could. You're leaning as much as you can. You're pushing the wheel as much as you can. You're going as quickly as you possibly can to stay in your half of the road. If you're doing that and then another car comes up while you're in the middle of it, what you have to realize is when you're on a motorcycle and you're leaning into a turn, you have to look ahead of you. You have to look into the turn. So what can be incredibly distracting is if a car is coming in the opposite side of you and you're trying to negotiate the turn. Because what happens is it's very, very difficult as a motorcyclist who's very afraid and pushing the bike to the limits of its possibility to, at the same time as recognizing that there's a car directly in front of you where the bike is pointed at and where your head would be looking if you're looking straight, and where you need to look, which is over in this direction, right? It's over towards the inside of the turn. So while you're looking at the inside of the turn, if another car comes from where you're looking, it's very easy for your eye to move from that onto the car as it's passing. And if your eyes move to the car as it's passing, by extension, your arms, the motorcycle, begins to follow with the car that's passing, and you will hit the car that is passing you. Or, even worse, the car scares you. And the car scares you into doing something like applying the brake or starting to remove your commitment from the turn in some way to try and correct something for a situation that is not going to happen, but you are afraid of happening. And any of these things combined will cause you to veer into the other lane because you push this bike to the extent of what it can do. And if this turn is not executed perfectly, you're going to go into opposing traffic and you're going to get hit. I don't know what combination of factors it was, but as he was coming down the hill going quite fast and he came into that turn, he crossed over the double yellow as another car was coming up on us, and he slammed right into the corner of the car, and he was ejected from the bike. He was donezo, okay? He had hit his head real fucking hard. He had broken bones in other places. He was donezo. And when that happened, we were doing a group ride with some people that he had met through an app. A few months leading up to that trip, he had started going on these group rides with people he didn't really know that he had met on this motorcycle app. And the problem that I had with that the entire time was some of these people were cheeseball fucking dumb fucks that don't know how to ride a motorcycle or who push things to an extent that I was not comfortable with. I had gotten in numerous arguments with other people I had met on this app about how they were acting during a group ride, because I often would get criticism. We would pull over at the end of a ride and I'm way at the back and they're like, oh, look at this guy, he's going so slow, he couldn't even keep up when we were splitting. And it's because I'm making the conscious effort to, move at a speed where I can respond to traffic. And oftentimes that means moving much slower than the other people in the ride. But that's not a normal way to respond to those situations. What often happens is when you're in a group ride with 5 other people and 3 of those people can move much faster than you, you're going to try to keep up. And if you're pushing the extent of what you are personally able to do on the motorcycle and what you're personally comfortable with, you can be forced into situations via peer pressure where you can't perform, where you can't keep up, okay? And it's just a matter of another driver or the environment testing you. It's just a matter of there being gravel on the road in the wrong turn where you're not expecting it, or a car is coming on the opposite side, or there's a deer that's hanging out in a field and you look at it when you're in a turn, or a sign somewhere you didn't expect it that has like a graffitied penis and it catches your attention. It could be literally anything that distracts you and is just enough to make that equation negative and to kind of cash in on a bet that you are making every time that you're doing that. And there were at least 2 times that we had been on a group ride where I had told this guy, hey, like, I'm not super comfortable riding with those people ever again. Like, there was one time where we got off of the bike and
that book fucker.
2 of the people that we were riding with start doing drugs on the bike. They take off their helmet and they start doing drugs. And they were on drugs when we were on the group ride. And they were acting really, really crazy on that group ride. And that was when I told them, I can't be riding with these people. And for a long time, I didn't. And that mountain ride, unfortunately, was one of those times. So, you know, it's unfortunate, you know. It didn't have to happen that way, but, you know, don't, hold on, I don't want to have, like, crying voice, but, you know, don't push it that hard. Anywho, let's just keep changing scenes here. Oh shit. Anywho. Yeah, it's just sad. Like, it makes me wonder, you know? Like, I don't know. So what was I getting at with this? Yeah, people can push you to be a lot less safe. So after that one ride, I felt the need to like argue, every time that people would do something like unsafe, because it compounds, right? Like, let's say I'm on a group ride with somebody, and I encourage behavior that I know is like unsafe, or I engage in it, right? And then they go into another group ride, like perpetuating that, and it keeps going and going and going. It's not good. So, you know, people like FortNine, like making safety videos, like, good, like, do that. Like, that's so much better than, you know, other stuff like goofing off or doing wheelies or, you know, anything else, because we probably shouldn't encourage it. We probably shouldn't like make the normal thing what like they do, because it's not safe. And so like, I think that you should make a habit out of safety and being safe on the bike. And that way, when you're put in a situation where other people challenge those habits, you don't like change, you know, you don't like try to push things for other people. And so, you know, anytime that anybody tries to like push an argument, like the dude that got injured, trying to split lanes 40 miles an hour faster and traffic was moving, I have to give pushback on it. I don't want anybody coming out of an interaction with this motherfucker thinking that that's a way that they can behave on a motorcycle, or thinking that they can blame the driver for what had happened to him, you know, like, it's not good. There was like, hold on. Let's do some Dr. K meditating, because the second part's more difficult for me to say. Hold on. But I want to complete it. I want to finish it. Let's see. All right, let's do ins and outs with our breaths, okay? Okay. So, like, the other thing that's difficult, and that I had in the forefront of my mind with this fella who had gotten hurt, and other people who get hurt and they blame the drivers, is, let's imagine that dude had passed away, like my friend did, getting in the accident. Let's say that he was splitting, he was going 45, traffic was stopped at 0, somebody was trying to change lanes, and he hit them. In a way where he could have probably predicted that they were coming, and he could have been slower. And let's say that he passed away. Imagine being the driver that had switched lanes, right? Imagine being that driver, right? Imagine that driver gets blamed for killing that motorcyclist when the reality of the fault distribution there is way, way, way heavier leaning towards the motorcyclist. And like, again, one of the like craziest things about the accident that had happened with my friend was not just that he had passed away. It was that the other car that was oncoming, it had a whole family in it, right? So him pushing it, right, like put them through that. It put that driver through that. You know, like it put a lot of people through that. So, you know, like it's worth thinking about. Like, it's not just you. And it feels like it's just you on the bike, but it's not, you know? It's rough. It's rough. Like, I don't think I need to explain that more for you guys.
Breathtaking. But, I shall call him...
You know, it's not good.
Mini-Me.
Like, the one thing I kept telling that lady that was driving was like, it's not your bad. Like, he was going way too fast. Like, don't feel like that's your fault and whatever. Because like, one of the first things like I realized after was like, this poor lady, this poor lady and the poor people in this car. It's not good. I don't want them going away from it like thinking that was their bad, or, you know, like thinking she killed somebody or whatever. Like, it's rough. It's really, really rough. Never rode one, but they're sweet. Heard the power delivery is great. The Triumph Speed Triple, yeah. It has a weird power band that's like a lot higher than I'm used to. Like, it's very coming from like a Honda F4i, where I feel like I have a lot more pickup in like the lower end. So like the torque is much lower in the RPMs. It's strange that I hit like between like maybe 3,500 or 4,000 RPMs and like 7 or 8. And that's where all of a sudden we have a bunch of power. I still don't think I'm handling the shifting right on the Speed Triple. I'm going to contact the previous owner and ask like when they normally shift gears and what they're hanging out in idle. Because the bike sounds really, really loud at like some of the higher RPMs, but I feel like that's where it should probably be and where I should be shifting gears, because the power seems to come in there. Hey, Bookie, late night stream. Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about, is like, you know, I like anytime I interact with anybody regarding motorcycles, I try to be Mr. Safety, even if it makes me seem like a fucking, lame-o, especially with other motorcyclists. Like, I'm unapologetically mean to other motorcyclists because like, you know, like even with Too Mad, like I feel like I'm an asshole to Too Mad about safety and stuff. And then he probably thinks that I'm a bit of a prick about it. And it's mostly because of like I was right behind this friend when that happened. And if I was pushing my bike as hard as he was pushing his bike, it may have been me too that was in that accident. And so like, you know, opting for safety, choosing to be at the back of the pack for the ride, choosing to ride the bike that I rode, which was the BMW, my bigger 1100cc bike that's like, it fucking drives like a Civic. Like, you're not doing anything crazy on it. Like, I chose not to take the sports bike on that ride. I chose not to take the sports bike in the mountain. That was a very, very conscious decision on my part that day, was to not take the bike where I would be tempted to do something crazy because we were going to be with people from that group ride app. Like, it makes me think like, every one of the safety decisions I made probably kept me alive. Like, so to knock safety, in my opinion, is unacceptable. No more. So when I see other motorcyclists do it, I have to push them on it, because it's not good. You have a Speed Triple as well, Pog. Yeah. You just want people to be safe. I want motorcyclists to be safe. Like, you can't control the other drivers. I can't give a speech to every driver, but I can talk to every motorcyclist, and the motorcyclist will get it. Like, I could tell a driver all of this.
I shall call him...
And...
Mini-Me.
Thanks, Luke. Thank you, Luke. I can tell even a bunch of car drivers this, and it's not going to stick the way it'll stick with a motorcyclist. even an emotional story like this, it might stick for you guys, but when you tell motorcyclists this, it'll stick. I've never had a motorcyclist that I told this to before that didn't like really, really, really like respond to it, you know? And I think they're the ones that need to hear it, because you can't control every other driver. You can only control your bike. You can only make decisions for you, right? Like, if you're a philosophy nerd, this is like stoicism, right? Like you kind of have to recognize that like you only have control over you. So you have control over the situations you put yourself into. You have control over the situations that you're putting the bike into. You have control over the kinds of situations you put yourself into, right? A test from another driver or from the road or from nature can come whenever. You don't know when the test is coming, but the best thing that you can do is make sure that you're prepped for when it happens, that you're in the best situation possible to pass that test, right? When you're constantly pushing the bike to the brink, you're constantly putting yourself in a situation where if life throws you a test, you're going to fail. And I don't think you should do that, because on the motorcycle in particular, failing that test means losing your life or losing like your, it can mean losing a lot. It could mean you can't walk anymore. It could mean you can't go to work anymore. It could mean, that you scar a whole family full of fucking kids and stuff that you ran into. It has so many effects beyond just you that you're like gambling, right? Like my family tells me, be safe. My friends, when I'm leaving, ride safe, right? All those friends are put through that if you decide to put yourself in a position where like there's a test and you fail it, right? So think about helmets, like kind of bother me a little bit, but yeah, it's rough. I'm crying right. I'm crying right with you. This shit hurts hard. Yeah. Very true. People think the car has to follow the rule is enough. Yeah, don't die. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the cars don't follow the rules. You're choosing not to follow the rules right now by going that fast. If a motorcycle cop saw you splitting at 45 when traffic is stopped, I would fully expect that motorcycle cop to pull you over for reckless driving and reckless endangerment. Because it could be anything. It could be, somebody's kid fucking opens the door of their car and you're dead. It could be they're trying to change a lane and they indicated and you just missed it because you can't see. And then you're dead. Like it could be anything, dude. And that's the thing is like a test can come in any form at any point, and you want to pass that test because to fail it has implications beyond just you. Because like the other response that I get from motorcyclists is oftentimes like, well, that's a risk I'm willing to take. And it's like, yeah, kind of, but not really. Like, if you choose to go out there and ride without protective gear, fine. That's you. You're going to get fucked up. But when you choose to put yourself in situations where you can kill yourself on the bike, like not wearing a helmet, not obeying the rules of the road, splitting faster than you should split, road raging with other drivers, like, should you fail that test of safety and you pass away, that impacts more people, right? Like, and what's funny is, and this is why I talk about perspective theory, I don't think people have all of the things that they know in their mind when they make these decisions. So like with suicide, I find that people are very well aware of like how a death impacts people, right? Like if you're trying to tell somebody not to do suicide, you tell them like, hey, there are people that love you. There are people who will be impacted by this. It's not just you. This is a selfish decision, yada, yada. But we don't have that when you're putting yourself in a situation where your life is at risk. We don't often think about like, oh yeah, you choosing to do this super dangerous thing though, it means that you're risking like your family, having to deal with a death. And nobody thinks about that, but like, that was like a whole other component of this, right? There was like, there was him not being safe, which was one aspect. There was the people in that car, which really bothered me. That's another one. The third one is the family, right? You have to like deal with the loved ones of that person afterwards. And it's like, what do you have to tell them, right? Like if you're in a group ride with people and you choose to do something like do a wheelie while you're splitting traffic, and let's say you die, doing a wheelie, splitting in traffic. And let's say you were riding with a friend. What does that friend have to tell your family, right? Like, oh, he was doing a wheelie in traffic and he died. Like, you know, when they ask you what happened, what happened? Like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, how could this have happened? What did he do? Was he being safe? Like, what did this person killed him? What did they do? Were they like, did they come over and like, you know? And if you have to tell them that they were doing something stupid and that's why it happened, like, you know, that's rough on a family to hear. Like, it's his fault. You know, that's another huge thing. And like, nobody thinks about like all of this stuff. And like, you know, he died, but it was rad, dude. Yeah. Like, you know, like I don't think people think about like all those bits. And, unlike Steven, like I say this unlike Steven shit all the time. I need to stop that. Like I like to consider like that people are not ignorant. They're not irrational. It's just they don't consider stuff all the time. They don't consider everything they know all the time. And like, you know, so I don't get like super upset with people when they do this in like the past tense and they had made these mistakes, because it's going to happen. You know, you're not considering everything. Making that choice after telling people stuff like this, it's like, you know, like it's bad. Like I think every time you get on the bike or you start pushing these things, I think you should start to associate the sensation of fear with all of these things. You know, when you feel fear on the bike, you should channel that energy into like being safe. How do I rectify this? It's not how do I fight this by getting better at riding. It's how do I mitigate like ever feeling afraid on the bike? How do I not put myself into situations where I feel afraid of my lack of control or things like this? Like the sensation of fear on a motorcycle should coincide with like rectifying that fear in the safest way possible. So when people ask me, are you scared splitting lanes? Like, isn't that scary? Yeah, it's scary, but am I afraid? Like, that's why it was very difficult for me to answer that question that somebody gave way at the start of the stream, but it stuck with me. Are you afraid? It's like, if you're afraid, you shouldn't do it. Like, you know, you need to like not be afraid. Because if you're afraid, you need to be doing it differently. You shouldn't be afraid splitting the lanes because you should be confident that you can stop, you know, like you should feel confident that if that test presents itself that you can pass. So no, you shouldn't, you know, you shouldn't be afraid. Cause if you are, like, that's probably an indication that you need to be riding differently, you know, if you're afraid of that thing. And if you're new to it, then of course there's going to be a curve and you're going to have to get better and better at it. But if you've been riding a while and you're getting afraid at some of the things that you're doing, if it makes your heart pound and it makes you feel like you're taking a serious risk, what's missing in your frame of reference in that moment is like what that risk can turn into. What is the manifestation? Like, what are the consequences should the test come, right? Like, and that's not what people think about. It's what I think about. Like when I'm splitting and I'm like, ooh, like, I want to pass this truck. But in order to pass this truck, which is driving like an idiot, I need to go like 110 miles an hour because we're all moving at the speed of traffic. I have two options. Okay, I can continue to be behind this person, you know, or no, you have more than two options, obviously. Do you want to get ahead of this person, get in front of them by going 110 miles an hour and risking it on the bike? Or do you want to slow down and go a couple of cars behind them? You know, like little things like this, like I try to opt for what I think is safe when I'm in situations where I'm afraid. Or for instance, recently, my hands kept getting cold on the bike. So I kept trying to make the decision to pull over and warm up my hands. And, there was one time on the very last leg of the Vegas journey where I didn't make that decision. And I continued to ride, even though my hands were so cold, like I felt like I could barely move them. It was hurting. And when I got back to the hotel, the first thing I thought when I took off my helmet was like, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Because if a test had come, I'm not sure I would have passed. Like if there was all of a sudden a coyote in the road and I need to very quickly make several decisions on the motorcycle to move past it when I'm going that fast, I don't think I can. I think the odds of me passing that test are way lower when my hands are so cold I can't squeeze them, and given the safety risk that presented, I shouldn't have made that decision. And I didn't for miles and miles and miles before that point. And, I think being hard on yourself when you fail those safety tests in your own brain is how you make sure that you don't fail them when life presents it to you. So I think I'm a broken record at this point, but, think about this stuff. Yeah. Book, I fell off the bike and hurt myself. This is all your fault. Interesting, dude. Get better at defensive riding instead of just riding. True. I think those military guys who tell families their kids died would have good pointers for this. Yeah, maybe, dude. Maybe. But I mean, yeah, I don't know if those are super analogous, like military people dying in combat versus, this. But yeah, the having to tell the families thing, I imagine, is difficult. Bro, let me tell you, he was riding the most sick-ass wheelie while splitting traffic. You guys are awful. I don't ride motorcycles, but I really enjoy this talk. That's good. My mom used to save her old expired batteries to throw at shitty drivers. Oh my God. That's kind of fucked up, not gonna lie. Most cops are pretty lenient with motorcyclists, to be honest. Source, I'm a motorcyclist. I gotta say, I don't find that motorcycle cops are very lenient with motorcyclists, though. And I don't think they should be. Honestly, I think you should be way more tough on motorcyclists. Like, at least in America. I understand in other countries, like, motorcycles are like a dominant force, but in America, it almost feels like if you're choosing to be a motorcyclist, you should probably be a better driver than everybody else around you. Now, after living in Asia, that belief of mine was challenged a lot because just that's like the everyday man's vehicle, right? In some countries, like motorcycles and scooters are the norm more so than cars. And so it's different. But on those roads, everybody more or less understands motorcyclists. Like if you're driving a car, you still understand the ramifications of riding a bike. And I think that helps everybody stay a bit safer. But I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure. Beginning my studies as a paramedic this year, this advice is going to kill my career, bro. You've got to stop. I'm sure there's plenty of other stuff for you guys to do. But yeah, I don't know. Well, here's the thing for you, Fife, bro. If you encounter other motorcyclists and stuff, maybe you'll have like extra info. Dangerous activities should always be fully mitigated when possible. Maybe, yeah. But like, I don't tell people not to ride bikes. That's the thing is like, people ask me like, well, after all that, like, wouldn't you not want to ride motorcycles anymore? Or like, wouldn't you be afraid to? And it's like, no, because it's fun. It's such a fun and wonderful activity. And it brings so much it brings so much joy to my life to be able to ride a motorcycle that I don't think I'd ever want to tell people not to try it or that they shouldn't ride them, because I think everybody should. I think it's fun. I think everybody should know what that's like, to know if that's something that they're into. And if you're into it, then I think you should enjoy it safely. As much as people ride cars or drive cars and they enjoy cars, like people enjoy road trips, people enjoy going out camping in a van, people enjoy, whatever. I think you can really, really enjoy motorcycles. I think you can enjoy cruising. I think you can enjoy motorcycle camping and off-roading and even track days, even pushing a bike to the brink. I've never done it, but I could see from the few times that I did push my bike that must be an exhilarating experience. I wouldn't even want to take that away from people. If you want to go to a track and push a piece of human engineering and ingenuity to the farthest point that it can, and you want to become one with a machine and do that, I think that's fine. I think you should be able to go and do that. And I think there's more safety mechanisms for you there. And I would just anticipate that we get better and better at safety in that regard. But like, I don't think people shouldn't do it. I think it's fun. And I think for some people that may be like the light of their life. You know, like I've met motorcyclists where that's like 90% of their life. They spend all of their money on motorcycles and motorcycle modifications and having a garage and doing track days. And basically their life revolves around it. It's a very, very serious like passion of theirs. And I love it. I love that they're happy about it, you know? So that's always a weird thine. Aren't you like 26% more likely to die in a motorcycle accident than a car accident? Well, yeah, because cars are significantly safer. FortNine has a video about that. You should watch it. I'm in love with this dude. Oh man, should we watch that video too? We're going to watch another video. Good God. I'm pretty sure it's called like How Safe is a Motorcycle or something like that. How dangerous are motorcycles? Yeah, this is an old video of his. I'm going to play it at 1.5 because it's not exactly like super well produced. It's just like a good video. Surfing is similar. Shark attacks happen, but it's so fun. We keep surfing. Yeah, I do feel like it's super similar to the surfing advice you give to people. Like, aren't you afraid of sharks? Isn't it cold? Like, what if you get lost? What if you get pulled out there? You know, yada, yada. It's like, yeah, but it's fun. And like the fun is so much that like, you know, you live with that. Bookfucker with a nice mic. Yeah. Let's go ahead and watch How Dangerous Are Bikes. Hold on. Let's move this. No, I don't think that's similar in terms of shark attacks. Yeah, so shark attacks are also incredibly uncommon, which is like another component of that. But I felt it wasn't worth pointing out.
Hello, I'm Ryan F9, and up on the hills behind me there is a wind farm. Now we're going to try to get as close to a windmill as possible. And while I do it, I'm going to vlog about the danger of motorcycling.
So let's do 1.5 on this.
I always find that people love to say how dangerous motorcycles are without actually saying how dangerous motorcycles are. I mean, vague terms like street lethal and donor cycle, I think it makes someone feel better about driving a Volvo, but they don't actually mean it.
Oh, for Destiny viewers, you may very well not like what he's about to do with numbers, and I'm going to give you that heads up and that caveat. I don't completely agree with the way he uses numbers here, but you'll see what I mean.
All right, let's get riding. Woo! All right. I love riding windmill terrain. We did a lot of this around the Gaspé Z, and it's just like made me addicted, man. It tends to just be so scenic, and there's so many dirt roads. It's just awesome. Okay. I mean, way to start, eh? I mean, look at this road. It's beautiful right off the bat. Okay. So, I mean, as I was saying, people don't actually want to say how dangerous motorcycles are. That's the topic of our vlog today. I went ahead and crunched the numbers. If you're watching this on the FortNine website, you can find the math right below this video. If you're watching it on YouTube, too bad. Too bad. I guess I'll link to it in the description or something like that. But, oh, yes. Turn to dirt really fast. Oh. There goes the back end. So yeah, I crunched the numbers. I basically looked at vehicle statistics in Canada between, I think it was 2008 and 2013, and averaged across that time frame. I looked at light vehicle driver deaths, so ignoring the passengers and ignoring trucks and school buses and that kind of thing, and found out how many people died in car crashes on Canadian roads. Look at this. This is gorgeous. And then I did the same for motorcyclists. I found out how many motorcyclists died on public roads in Canada, again, ignoring their passengers. And I found out that the ratio was about 5.5 to 1. Oh, seems sad to talk about death and stuff on such a gorgeous sunny day. In such a gorgeous country.
So,
anyway, 5.5.
I know that in the chat you started off with like 25 times more. He's starting out with 5.
To 1. For every 5.5 people that die driving a car or a truck or some kind of passenger vehicle on public roads in Canada, 1 motorcycle driver or rider dies. So that was that ratio. And then after that, it was just a question of looking at the number of registered vehicles in Canada over that time frame and the average kilometers traveled by a car and by motorcycles. Then I could get the ratio 75 to 1, which is the ratio of light vehicle kilometers to motorcycle kilometers in Canada. So for every 75 kilometers that the average Canadian car travels, a Canadian motorcycle travels 1 kilometer. Is this stop sign for me? I don't know. Oh, man, it's so good. So I love dirt roads. You don't even have to break the speed limits necessarily. You can just get like so out of shape, like fool around without any of the any of the real danger. So yeah, danger in motorcycles. So 75 to 1, kilometer to kilometer, and 5.5 to 1, death to death. You'd expect those ratios to be equal if driving a car and riding a motorcycle were equally dangerous, but they're not. So so they're off by a ratio of, oh, hold on, after this corner. power drifts always distract me. They're off by a ratio of 13.5. So basically that means that motorcycle riders are 13.5 times more likely to be killed in a car crash or vehicle incident on public roads in Canada, which kind of sucks. Woo! But that cheers me up. Anyway, so the thing though is that I'm not dead yet. I've been riding around all day. I'm riding around out here, and I'm not dead yet. So maybe the number 13.5 isn't quite right. I certainly feel safer than that. And to be honest, it's true. I can actually feel safer than that, and my number is probably much lower than the 13.5 average. I'll tell you what I mean.
And I know that some of you viewers are going to be cringing at this really, really hard. Give him a second. Give him just a second. So remember that what he's saying here is, I certainly feel safer than this 13.5 number, and I feel like I can be that much safer. Let's go ahead and see what the explanation is here. And what I want you to focus on with this video is more so what the messaging around safety is from it, and you'll get that by the end of it.
So, according to the Hurt Report, which is like that famous motorcycle study, it was about 50% of motorcycle accidents involve riders who've been on their bikes for less than 5 months. Well, I've been on this V-Strom here for about 2 years. So I can officially drop my number 13.5 there. Oh, look at those windmills. Ah, yeah, we're getting nice and close to them now. This is good. I heard that the wings are about the size of a 747 plane wing on some of the biggest windmills. I don't know if these are the biggest. And the tips will be going 200 miles an hour when they're fully sort of rotating at the highest speed, which is really cool. Oh, look at that. That is awesome. Looks like it's closed off, though. This one, yeah, it's close to. That's a shame. See, in SBC, you could like go right up to him, stand underneath him and stuff, but this is...
On a side note, I tried to drive up to some windmills on the way over, back from Vegas, and I similarly ran into a problem where all of the roads are they blocked off all the access. I thought it would have been cool to go up to one and take some pictures, but they were all blocked.
Yeah, private access. Bummer. Oh well. C'est la vie. I will probably ride very happily anywhere they let me ride up here because this is absolutely gorgeous. I'm not going to complain. Oh, yeah, amazing. So anyway, speaking of good news, so we were dropping that number 13.5 by looking at how long you've been on your bike. You can also look at, what was the study? In Ontario, they did a study, and it showed that about 25% of motorcycle deaths involved alcohol. So if you always ride sober, believe it or not, I'm riding sober right now, I always ride sober, then you can drop your risk factor there again. The same study of Ontario found that speed was a contributing factor in about 12% of motorcycle deaths, I think. So if you always keep it within the limits, you can drop your factor there too. In Quebec, when they instituted mandatory motorcycle training, oh, look at this. Oh, there's just windmills everywhere up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I wonder how big this array is. Absolutely massive. So when they instituted mandatory motorcycle training in Quebec, as I was saying, 46% of motorcycle deaths like immediately fell off afterwards. So my recent graduation from motorcycle school probably counts for something as well. What else could we say? We could borrow from our friends to the south. In America, they have stats on ABS systems. They don't have stats like that in Canada. It just keeps getting prettier. I feel so blessed to be riding around out here. It's unreal. What was I talking about? The States. Yes, if we're going to borrow from the States, they found there that I think it was 37%. You're 37% less likely to be killed in a motorcycle crash if you're riding a motorcycle that has ABS. Well, this motorcycle does have ABS. I found it kind of a cheeky way to turn it off when I want to sort of mess around off-road. But if I have the ABS on, that counts for something. Probably what counts for the most is ATGAT, all the gear, all the time. I mean, it's kind of hard to put a number on it because everyone gears up differently, but not every Canadian has a full-face helmet, a fully armored jacket, fully armored pants, motorcycle boots, etc., etc.
As somebody else mentioned in the chat, even just the helmet that you choose can have a huge impact on things. No pun intended. Having, for instance, a 3/4 or even a modular helmet can put you at a lot higher risk for certain kinds of impacts than if you were to just wear a full face normal helmet. Or as another chatter said, using a BMX helmet is going to put you at a much higher risk than if you were to wear a Department of Transportation certified, or even better, the EU standard certified helmet. So these are big things. Having your visor down instead of up is another thing.
So if the average motorcyclist is 13.5 times more likely to die in a car crash, well, the average motorcyclist isn't geared up 100% all the time. So if I gear up 100% all the time, well, then that's going to decrease my risk factor a bit more. I think that's probably... Ooh, cul-de-sac. We'll see about that. I just want to keep getting close to these windmills, so if that's a cul-de-sac, well, we'll see. We will see. Ooh. Can I come through here?
Booksmarts, do you wear armored clothes? You've got a showy, so I know your helmet game is on point. Yeah, my helmet game is always on point. Always has been. Yes, I have a jacket. Let me go ahead and grab it. Let's see. So having been in a motorcycle accident, one thing that I learned is it's important to have an armored jacket. So here are my sleeves. Let's see. I'm pretty sure I can pull them out, but I really don't want to. Yeah, I can. I won't. Inside of these sleeves is armor, okay? And what this armor does is... So oh man. So there's a million FortNine videos on motorcycle safety gear and why it works. So numero uno is going to be the abrasive, okay? It's meant to handle abrasion. If you were to compare any kind of normal clothes and the abrasion resistance they have to motorcycle stuff, you'll find very quickly that this looks like a magic material. You can rub this with sandpaper a ton, and you will find that the way that it falls apart and the way that it comes together and the way that it clumps is very, 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 very unique. Okay, so motorcycle clothes are designed to be anti-abrasion. But beyond that, once you get past this first layer of fabric, inside of here is armor, and I actually have really, really good armor inside of these. That armor is A, gonna help with impacts, but B, it's gonna help when you're dragging across the asphalt, or in his case, if he were to fall here, dragging across all these rocks and stuff, okay? So you have that. You also have, in the back here, even more, okay? And on the shoulders here as well, okay? So you're gonna want something that has those protections for you, and they're going to make a world of difference. I got in an accident where I had slid, and even though it was a low-speed accident, I don't think I was going more than maybe between 20 and 30 miles an hour, the anti-abrasion on my other Alpine Stars jacket was not enough to stop it. So it went all the way through, and it went onto the armor underneath it. And the armor ended up saving me from all kinds of injuries. So the back armor was destroyed, and all this was torn. My front on my arms was torn and destroyed, and it got down to the armor. My gloves were torn and destroyed down to the armor. My helmet was fucked. So even in a low-speed accident where I was going through basically like what is right next to a residential area, like, it was one of those where you can make a right turn and there's going to be houses right there. So, and I was taking off from like a light that had just turned green. It was red, I was slowing down, then it went to green, and I was able to continue going. So we're not even going fast. Even in a situation like that, it was enough to go through all of the armor, to go down to the armor. It was enough to like require all these things. But what happened was I didn't have any broken bones. I didn't have road rash. I didn't have any injuries that I needed to tend to, and I came out unscathed. Okay. And though these clothes are expensive, and though it may seem like, oh, I can just put on anything, I think one thing that the FortNine channel reminds me of is just how much even abrasives make a difference, right? And even the anti-abrasives on this don't make it enough. It don't give enough protection to stop you from getting to armor, even in a low speed accident. So this is normally something that I wear. Now, if the ride that I'm going on is between 1 and 3 miles, I do consider not wearing the jacket. That's not a good thing. But what I will always try to wear are the gloves, because the one thing that will always get fucked up in an accident is going to be your hands, okay? And if my family is watching this, they know I'm not always consistent on this point, but lately I have been, especially since getting the new bike, always wearing the gloves, because your hands will get fucked up no matter what in an accident. Because you will fall and you will scrape them, and that will happen. If your hands are on the sides of your handlebars and the bike low ends and you fall, this side of your hand is going to scrape on the pavement, and that is going to be a hell of a lot of pain for you. You stick out your hand to break your fall, and all of the webbing inside of your fingers is going to be fucked up, as well as the pads. And I'll tell you what, you fuck up that webbing in between your fingers, if you tear that, or if you end up getting that, you hit it on the road and it has like abrasion and it fucking rips, that's going to be a lot of pain for you, and that's going to be a bitch to recover from. You hurt your butt, right? A butt isn't the one thing that I don't have that I'm trying to save up for are pants. I really want something with Kevlar in the ass, because that is another thing that will go, and that is another thing which is an injury which, while not life-threatening, is going to be very difficult to deal with. Trying to recover an injury on your bottom side is going going to not be fun for you. So motorcycle/bike accidents really bring you back to reality in a way, in that they teach you how fragile you really are in a vehicle accident. True. Driving in the city is a lot safer than driving on highways, and I'd argue car drivers not being used to motorcycles on the road probably also contributes a fair bit to accidents in the West, at least. Yeah. It always seems like the things with the most risk tend to be cheaper at first, always turn out to be much more expensive. A motorcycle tends to be cheaper than a car, but after accounting for protective gear and potential injuries, how much different is the cost? Yeah, that was something that I confronted like very, very early on when I started riding, is that yes, the gear is going to cost you, especially if you get good gear. Unfortunately, I think the solution for a lot of riders is to cheap out on their gear. They get cheap helmets, they get cheap boots, they get cheap gear. You know, I think luckily enough, style in our culture is such that people will try to get stylish jackets, which tend to have more protection and they will be more expensive, and people feel okay spending the extra expense for the style and for the prestige of it. Like Alpine Stars is a good brand. But you know, I think that's a cultural like benefit because it provides a side effect of people opting for more safe gear. So at least on the jacket side of things, I think everybody more or less has like a safe jacket. Some people just get DOT certified helmets, which, oh man, there's a whole other video comparing DOT certification, which is Department of Transportation. It's the American requirement for helmets in the country. Kind of talking about how shitty of a system that is, if you ever want to look into it. So if you're going to get a helmet, you may want to make sure that it's also Snell certified. There are other certifications that you could get, but maybe just DOT is not enough for you. Another viewer mentioned my, where is it?
That book fucker.
Another viewer had mentioned my helmet. Yeah, I have a very nice helmet, like relative to other helmets that you can buy. Shoei, which is a really, really good brand. GT Air. Shoei's good. Built is good. I mean, not built, sorry. Shoei is good. Agu is good. There's another one I'm thinking of that's pretty good. There are good helmets, but you're going to want to get those. So yeah, I have a Shoei. I have like a really nice helmet. Inside of the helmet, I got these bad boys. I'm pretty sure this is Dionysi, is it not? Is that the Dionysi brand? Somebody can tell me in the comment. I'm pretty sure it's Dionysi. Oh, it says on the fucking gloves. I'm an idiot. Okay, so Dionysi, yet again, another good brand. It has knuckle protection in it. It has the extra zones, which after my very first accident, like I said, I saw that the hands had been torn open, and I knew that I definitely needed this. Yeah, so you're going to want these. You're going to want gear. And wearing it, yes. Wear it, oh. And you want to make sure your helmet fits, that it fits good. And it doesn't matter if you're like a dickhead to the salespeople or you feel like you're causing them extra grief to like make sure you have a helmet that properly fits. Because remember, you go shopping for a helmet like once in a blue moon, okay? And when you go shopping for that helmet, you want to get one that works when you need it to. You do not want to, here, let's, so you want a helmet that when I turn it, I can't, you know, I'm going to break my fucking neck. I can't turn this thing, okay? It's not going to go. You want something that's not going to be able to rock off or anything, okay? You want it to fit. You want it to fit really, really good, okay? You want to make sure that it has straps that you feel like you're confident are going to work, okay? And that are going to stay put, right? You're going to want to make sure it has certification of some sort on it, not just some, you want to make sure it has certification, not just some randomness. So yeah. Yeah, you're going to want to make sure you have a helmet that fits, because if it doesn't fit, it's not going to work when you need it to work. I don't know if you meant for me to put on the gloves, but I can put on a glove for you. The gloves are another important thing. You want your hands to work. At least in my case, like burning my hand today. If I fuck up my hands, I'm screwed, you know? That's my job. I really, really, really need my hands, so I want gloves that work. I want gloves that, even if it's Velcro here, I can't... I can't get the glove off, okay? You're gonna want to make sure that the glove doesn't come off when you just yoink it, and that it really needs you to undo that little bit there. Even if it's convenient to have the Velcro, a lot of the gloves that I tried, I was still able to get the glove off because the Velcro with the single strap here was not good enough to hold it in. These were one of the only gloves that had that actually held the glove onto my hand, because when I go and I slip, if this thing comes off, it doesn't do what I need it to do. It's not going to protect me. So even if it's convenient to have gloves that are easy slip on, slip off, easy slip on, slip off, okay? Slip off, accident, big problem, right? So, stuff like that. What is the thing in front of the jaw helmet area? What do you mean? This? That's my vent. So that lets in air that then goes up. Here, let me make sure I have a shot. See these vents right here? Those go up and onto the front of this so that I don't get a bunch of steamy inside of the helmet. I don't get all steamy. So that's what that is. That's a little vent that I can open and close. Beyond that, this thing on the side is so that I can listen to music while I'm on the bike, okay? And it's got a little microphone that goes into, oops, let's try to pull that guy out. There we are. It's got a little microphone that goes into the front so that I can talk. Yeah. Now, granted, these things are expensive. I think the helmet when I got it was, like $550, $600. This little guy on the side, I'm pretty sure is like a $200 thing. Like, the things for motorcycles are not cheap. I think my gloves were something close to like $100, and I got them on sale. The jacket, I'm pretty sure, was like $250, $300 something as well. So, it is expensive, but you're going to want to buy that because, unfortunately, there are no requirements that you buy that stuff at the time that you buy a motorcycle. So you need to be responsible enough to remember you have to set aside a budget for gear to get what you need to be safe. It's like if they sold cars with like out seatbelts, and it was expected that you went into an auto repair shop after you buy the car and you would add in the seatbelts and the airbags and the things that you need, so you would have freedom of choice of the airbags and stuff. Like, that's kind of how it is on a motorcycle right now, okay? You have freedom of choice for what kind of safety gear you want, if any at all, and you just kind of have to buy the bike, which is like the least safe part of the whole, transaction. So set aside money if you're going to get a motorcycle to, at the same time, get gear. Because again, I would look at this as a decision of, do you want to buy a motorcycle that's going to mean that you're likely to fail those tests we talked about, that you're going to put your family through that, you're going to put your friends through that, you're going to put, use the suicide argument. Are you really going to sign up for a transaction right now where you're going to put that many people in your life through that because you wanted to skimp on gear? Because you wanted to not wear a helmet, because you cheaped out on it, because you didn't want to wear gloves, because you didn't want to, wear all of your gear. Is that what you want? You want them to visit you in the hospital every day because you're covered in road rash and broken bones? Is that what you want? Like, if you're in America, that's much more expensive than the gear. So it's a lot easier to be rational with you and tell you don't want to spend time in the hospital. It costs a lot of money. Pay for your gear. But for people in other countries, I think it's better to focus on this empathic kind of like, remember that when the test comes, this helps you pass that test so you don't, impact the lives of other people in that way. So, yeah.
Here. So, if I'm riding up your driveway right now, I sincerely apologize. Woo! But you have an absolutely stellar driveway if this is yours. This is dope. Oh yeah, this is way more technical now. Look at how close we are to that. Oh, cool. Apparently you can park a minivan on top of the turbine there. Apparently that's how big it is. It's hard to tell because it's so high up. Oh, this road's just getting better. It's getting steep. Oh, yeah. When in doubt, throttle it out. Yes. This is so good. So anyway, as I was saying, the number 13.5 kind of sucks. It sucks if we're that much more likely to be killed in an accident. But the good news is it's 13.5 for an average Canadian motorcyclist, and you have a choice. You do not have to be... Oh, it's getting slick in here. This is kind of kind of slippery. You do not have to be an average Canadian motorcyclist, right? You can choose to be 100% sober all the time, 100% within speed limits. You can choose to be, what else did I even say? You can choose to be 100% familiar with your motorcycle, all these things. And the day when 100% of bikes have ABS and traction control will probably never arrive, hopefully anyway. And for every way that you choose to be better than average, your number 13.5 is going to drop. Oh, this is good. Still private access, but this is probably as close as I'm going to get. So pretty. Man, what a ride, eh? I didn't actually feel that dangerous. I never feel that endangered when I motorcycle. I can't actually tell you exactly what my risk factor would be. The math won't really tell you that, but it's something that I can feel, and I feel comfortable with it.
And so you're going to want to do what it takes to get to that point as well. When people ask me, am I afraid? When I'm afraid, I make a change to try and correct the fear. Right? Because you shouldn't feel afraid. And when you feel afraid, that is something telling you that you need to change something, that you need to be safer, right? And if you believe in God, then I would appeal to you to see God in these things and to see that God is telling you to be more careful. If you don't believe in God, then at least realize that over the course of evolution, you've had hundreds or whatever, millions of years of like having this super duper incredible computer up here that's able to fucking cue you in when shit's not right. And I think it's cueing you in about something when it tells you, hey, I'm scared. This isn't correct. Right? Now, granted, all that didn't give you the capability to ride motorcycles and whatever naturally, but what it did do was kind of, oh wait, are we on YouTube or are we on the cam? Oh, we were on the camera the whole time. Oh, well. Imagine being told banging your... Wait, what? Oh, she doesn't even look like me. Probably got... Wait, what are you talking about, doctor, actor? The problem with motorbiking is that you can mitigate risk all you want, but you can't control the amount of fuckwits driving their cars. Right, which is why my point is, and FortNine's point is, at no point did he focus on other drivers. He focused on you the whole time. You have control over what you have control over as a rider. You can choose to make decisions that are going to make the ride safer for you. You can choose to make decisions that will make it unsafe for you. You can choose to wear gear all the time. You can choose to purchase bikes with safety equipment on them. You can choose to buy the best safety equipment that you can. You can choose to keep it within the speed limit. You can choose to avoid dangerous situations. You can choose to pay attention all the time and to drive sober. You can choose a lot of these things. Oh, wonderful example. So last night I smoked a little bit, like way earlier on, and I was tired because I came back from Vegas and whatever. And I was here at the office, and so I waited super long until I felt like I was really, really, really sober. But I was tired, and it was like wet on the road outside, and I took an Uber. I left the bike here and I took an Uber. I don't live very far from the office. Like I said, I'm like 3 miles away. So to take the bike would have been like 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. But I chose not to because I don't want to take the risk, because I don't want to get in an accident and then later have been like, I could have avoided it for 10 or 15 bucks. I knew, I felt scared, and I chose to continue to do that, and I ignored that. That's not something I ever want to do. So I took an Uber, and I came back via Uber today, and I will, take the bike to, later. So, just make safe choices. That's it. It's easier for me. And that's the thing that I also tell other motorcyclists. Like, I've stopped doing it lately because it comes off really strangely. But like, it's almost like I don't get a choice anymore. Like after that friend passed away, I can't help but think of that every time these things happen. Every time I feel afraid on the bike, like I can't help but think of that. And think of like all the things that happened as a result of that. And even when I tell you guys stories, like every time I tell these stories, like I'm faced with the immediate realization that like telling them will never, ever come close to having lived through them. To tell you that I had to tell his family that like he was going a very unsafe speed, that he couldn't maintain the turn, and that he crashed into that person, it's not their fault. That was hard. And to have to tell that to every person that asked me about the accident was hard. And the things that were hard, the hardest, are not things that are like particularly compelling to other people. Like, one of the hardest things that I had to say was, so first of all, when I was trying to call around to get somebody up to the mountain or to get somebody to know what had happened to him, I didn't have his mom's number and his phone was locked, so we couldn't open his phone. And I had to call one of his mom's friends, who's a mom of another friend. So basically his friend's mom. I had to call her. And she was like, okay, that's fine. You know, this sucks that this has happened. I hope you're okay. And I hope he's okay, yada, yada. What hospital are they taking him to? And I had to tell her that he's not going to a hospital. They're calling the coroner. There's no ambulance coming. They're not, you know, taking him to a hospital. And that was hard. That was like the hardest thing that I've like ever had to say. Like, I struggled on that so much. Like, and, you know, like, it's not, those aren't like the most impactful things that I can like tell people. So like the years after that, since that, like, it's been about trying to like figure out how can I like give this experience to other people in a way that is going to give them this impact without like, you know, without mirroring my own experience. Because the things that were most impactful and stick with me are not the things that are going to have that effect on other people. So, you know, that's why like rhetoric I find so interesting, because it's like, when you focus on your rhetoric and you focus on persuasion and you focus on communication, I think it necessitates a focus on the other person, the other party. It focuses on a perspective that's outside of your own, because it's about building bridges. I have to get you to this place to understand it, to see it. And I have to do it in a way that, you know, that will get you there from where you are now, not from where I am. And so like, you know, that's a huge part of like communicating with people, is figuring out what are the things I have to tell you to get you here. And like, you know, I tried over time to find what those things are and to communicate them. And I think like the set of things I have now, thanks to like FortNine and thanks to my own experience and talking with writers and giving them shit, like I've kind of developed what the things I focus on are. But like, there were so many other things that happened that were like impactful that are difficult to put into words. And that's why like I find that the suicide argument is the easiest way of putting that, because a lot of people have already, you know, tried to deal with that. They've tried to like, they've heard about that, or they know somebody that's happened to. And so like, I find that the easiest way to get the empathic part of this out is to go to that, because that's really intuitive for people. But like, you know, that was one of the most difficult parts, was having to tell everybody afterwards and having to explain it and having been the only person that saw it happen. Because a shitty thing, and like what makes me dislike that app, and what makes me dislike the writers that we were with further, was that so we were in a group with maybe like 4 or 5 people, right? And these other people, at least a couple of them, whatever, like 2 or 4, like 3 or 4 maybe other than us. 2 of them drove off. One of them came back, asked what had happened, saw what had happened, and he didn't want to stay for the dude. He wanted to keep going because he was afraid, because he didn't have a license for his bike. And he didn't have the documentation for his bike, so he was afraid of everything. And he was this dude's friend. The dude that died thought this guy was his friend. The other dude, the one that was our leader, he took off as well. He was the one that set the pace for the ride. You know, he was so far ahead. By the time he realized that my friend wasn't following, that he had like gotten way far down the mountain before he realized that we weren't following, because he wasn't paying attention. You know, stuff like that. Like, that is impactful to me in a way that I can't communicate. Like, it's not like, what's the word? It doesn't have a punch for people, but like it did for me. There was a lot of stuff like that like, I had to work through after this. Like, It was like, I don't want to compare it to other experiences, but I wonder if like the military is a bit like that. Like the stuff that is crazy to people and that people don't believe and whatever is so different than the things that like stuck with you. Like reading through a lot of that stuff in psych, I felt that a lot. Like trauma in these kinds of experiences are weird in that way. Like the things that stick with you are like so different from the things that are like impactful to other people. And the people that are best able to communicate trauma are those that like find a bridge. An author that I think does a really good job of this for military people would be Tim O'Brien, because he makes it like an active part of his drafting process of books is to look at like, how can I tell these stories to give the messages I need to in a way that like civilians will understand? And like, what do civilians need? And what are the details they need to hear? And like, what are the things that tug at their strings and like yada, yada. Anywho, I'm ranting at this point, but I don't know. Just like a note on trauma. Slaughterhouse 5 talks about this concept with the story it tells. True. Yeah, that too. Do you know if there are any initiatives to regulate this stuff, both proper protective equipment and proper education regarding road safety for motorcyclists? I'm sure there is, but you know, I'm not sure it'll ever be enough. I think we need to have much higher regulation on like who can drive and whatever. But until we have alternatives through public transportation or otherwise, I almost feel like you do more harm than good to like the average person to like put these regulations into place. That's one thing with like the more I learn about politics, the more I realize how difficult it is. You put in those restrictions and you stop so many poor people or so many people that can't commit from being able to use cars and other stuff that like you may do more harm than good. You may force people into poverty that otherwise wouldn't be there. You may take away the opportunity for growth that other people could have. You know, it's so difficult to balance these things that I don't even know if I would be down for like more regulations and stuff. I don't know if that's it. Hey, this is my first time on one of your streams. Oh shit. And I just want to say I'm sorry you went through that, and I really appreciate your rhetoric, Docs. Thanks, dude. Please keep yelling at Destiny for me. I will. Believe me, I'll keep yelling at Destiny until he burns the bridge. Because I don't think I would ever burn the bridge, but I don't know. He would have to do something pretty crazy. Anywho, I tried stopping someone I loved from drinking and driving a lot and never found the right words to get them. Sag, thanks for promoting safe travel. That sucks, book sucker. That's really hard. I don't know what I would do there. That would be really fucking difficult, dude. To have to deal with, to have to see him drive off. Because at least for me, you know what I'm thinking of, like, that would be tough for me to have to deal with that. That person would put me through a lot. I don't know if I could continue to have that person in my life. I come up for air, homie. This is a tough one. Yeah, it was. It's good advice for car drivers too. What, the being smart and stuff? Or, you know, trying to always make decisions from your own perspective that are going to keep you safe. And if you're feeling like it's sketchy, you probably shouldn't engage. What if I feel fear because my sharing and has analyzed the cars in front of me, but my body is too whacked to react? I don't know. What do you mean your body is too whacked to react? Aren't some of these risk reduction factors equally true for a car driver, like drinking and driving experience, speeding? Yeah, probably. Seems a little weird to discount the 13.5 factor by factors that would reduce your risk in both cases. Why would it seem weird? It can apply to both at the same time. Making the argument for the 13.5 on the motorcycle side of things does nothing to say that can't be done for the other side of things. So I don't know what you're saying there. The point that he's making is you can be safer on a motorcycle by avoiding things that other people have done that have put them at greater risk for these things to happen. that if a larger chunk of the fatalities had to do with alcohol, you can try to avoid doing alcohol. That if a large portion of them were because people didn't wear protective gear, you can make an effort to wear protective gear. If a large amount of them were breaking the law by going above a speed limit, you can do your best to stay under a speed limit. If a bunch of them were on like dangerous roads, you can do your best to avoid dangerous roads. There's constantly choices you can make to try to mitigate risk. And riding a motorcycle or driving a car should be about trying to be as safe as possible. If you're trying to be as safe as possible, it's not helpful to just look at that risk factor number. What's helpful is to look at the things that you could be doing to keep it lower, to try and lower it, right? So what are the things that I can do to be safer? And he's saying that the way to be a safe rider and the way to mitigate as much risk as possible is to just try and be consistently safe. And, you know, when you remove the numbers, which is like half of this, and you just look at the actions and stuff, that's what the whole narrative is here, that like you should make decisions on things you can do to be safer because on the whole they will make you safer, right? And he's using the numbers to give you some sense of scale, but you know, numbers be what they be. So I mean, you can set aside the numbers, but the general you know message here is to try and be safe. Destiny, Omega Lol, shots fired. What did I say? Did I say something bad again about Steven? Lamau, why are you even talking like this when riding a bike is suicide? Oh, it's Destiny's in here. You're just wrong about this. Sorry, it's way more dangerous. I don't know why you think a bike is safer than a car. It's so wrong. This is cringe. Who said that? Are you adding somebody? Dumb fuck? Because that's not what I'm saying. You jumped in on the wrong conversation, motherfucker. You want to burn a bridge, this is the way to do it. I would be very, very careful around this topic because I think you came in late. I think you don't know exactly what's going on, but I can tell you that you have a bad read here. Oh, we're not saying a motorcycle is safer than a car, and we're not making an argument anywhere close to that. We've been fairly forthcoming in this stream about how much more dangerous it is to ride a motorcycle. What we're saying with the FortNine video is that you should make every effort within your control to try and be safer. And that's what kind of we're getting at here, Steven. You literally were saying that a bike is safer than a car. I just heard you. You think just because you're careful, you can avoid accidents. What are you talking about? If I said that and you have a clip of it, I will retract it immediately and like go on my hands and knees and say sorry. But that's not at all what my message is here. I don't think anybody listening to this has that takeaway either. So I gotta say you're way fucking off on this one, buddy. But like I said, I hope Steve-O is joking. I hope he's joking too, brother. Yeah, I feel so bad for you that you're doing this because I think in any other situation this would be totally fine and cool, but I think you're jumping in on a topic that's been pretty Book just disengage? Well, we're friends, dude. I'm not disengaging from him and being mean. Wait, fuck, did I come in during a serious conversation? Sweatsney, I'm just trolling. Okay. Yeah, you're fine. Basically, okay, to give you like a TLDR, I had a friend that was very impactful on my life. We got into motorcycling together. We did a lot of group rides together, and he passed away on one of our trips. And so we're talking about how I think people should be safer on motorcycles and how, so yeah, you did. You picked a really weird one to God damn it, fuck me. Yeah, that's okay, buddy. It happens. But yeah. Yeah, you picked a really weird one to jump in on, but alas, my messaging is nowhere close to that motorcycles are safer than cars, or that there's some way you can ride a motorcycle that you'll be safer than you are in a car. Of anyone that you could talk to, please trust me that I'm the one person in the world that will never, ever, ever say this. Like, I am acutely aware of how dangerous motorcycles are. And I remind myself of that every time I get on one. So like, yeah, yes, this ain't the one. Oh, poor Steven. I almost feel bad that you jumped into this at this time. Ignore everything I said. Holy fuck, I was literally just loading the stream and trolling on the last thing you said. I didn't know the topic at all. Okay, you're fine. Like again, I feel bad for you that you chose to do that. Because, okay, chat, I feel like half of my career is spent defending Steven, but like, don't get too mad at Steven here. He clearly jumped in. He was trying to meme and, you know, he picked the wrong one. So, you know, it's fine. Oh God, I feel awkward for you, Destiny. Yeah. Anywho, I feel like that's probably the best place to leave it off on, but like, yeah, basically, like every time we talk about motorcycle stuff, I almost feel the need to get into this. I think over time with streaming, I'll get better and better at this, but people that have followed the channel for a while already knew this story. I've talked about it before. I get all teary and stuff every time. You know, I think I'll get better at it. But every time we talk about motorcycles, I feel the need to bring it up because I feel the need to combat any kind of narrative that is similar to what Steven thought I had maybe said, or was joking that I had maybe said, which is that motorcycles are safer than cars, or that motorcycles are so fun you should ignore the safety aspect, or anything close to that. Because normally when I interact with other riders and they give me any indication of this kind of attitude, I immediately try to correct it. And I feel very, I almost feel obligated by like what's happened to do that, because I have such like a compelling example and life to support that idea. And I try to share that. So earlier today, we started off the stream by kind of talking about, well, first of all, we started off the stream with me burning my hand because I was trying to make ramen and the fucking water went everywhere. But initially I was going to pick some cool videos about how to ride a motorcycle, about counter steering, about how the clutch works. And I wanted to talk about that because somebody in my Discord, which you can get up by doing !Discord, they were talking about how they were looking at getting a manual car or an automatic car, and they were wondering about the clutch and the gas relationship thing. And I gave them some analogies that they taught me in motorcycle school that I thought really, really helped like me envision in my mind how things were working. And it gave me a really intuitive sense of how to operate the controls. Then after that, we kind of went into how to operate a motorcycle, steering a motorcycle. Then we got into safety. And of course, every time we get into safety, I have to talk about this story. And we talked about splitting lanes, what's going on with that, as well as just like generally, what is it like being a motorcyclist, and what are the decisions you have to make, and how do you make them safely? So that's kind of what we went over today. IRL video in Rev. Ooh, that'd be fun. Let's see. Straight up ignored? Who? Bobby? Bobby, I don't see anything else from you, buddy. I don't know if you were ignored. But anywho, I figured that's a good place to end it. I think the teary is quite impactful. It would help with the talking about the details that would impact you, that wouldn't normally feel as bad to normie. Like having to say there was, yeah. But it's hard, Tommy. That's hard. That's like one of the hardest parts for me, though. So I don't know if that one I would do every time. I don't know if the ambulance thing is one I would do every time. Like, because I'm still not over that part of it. Like, I don't want to overshare with you guys. And I've said before, and I said this at the beginning of the stream, kind of in jest, but this is true. I'm trying to look at streaming as a way of making money and a way of producing content. If anything, I'm taking a kind of apathetic sort of like Vosh pragmatist view of like, it would be nice if I can do something with the platform and try and do something good with it, but all of that is extra. The main goal is going to be to produce like good content that's engaging and make sure it makes enough income so that I can live and like afford places to eat and a place to sleep. And, you know, like I have not had like adequate places to like live for a while. So like I'm acutely aware of how difficult that is. And I'm trying to make streaming a thing that can support life. So, you know, that is the thing. And I'm careful to like mix in too much of my personal life or my personal stories or like crying on stream or things like that, because I think what that can create is like you guys thinking it's not real or something like that. And if I see comments like that, like, you know, that kind of shit would like bother me so bad that like, you know, I don't know. I try to avoid too much emotional stuff. I try to avoid like crying and whatever. Steven in particular has talked in the past about how like you need to be careful about people that are like that on their streams and stuff. And I think that is fair advice, and I think you guys should take it. But yeah, this is just one thing in particular where I feel like people can probably know that this is real, and people can probably know that like this isn't like a ploy to like create content or whatever. It's just when we talk about motorcycle stuff, I tend to like to include this because I think it is helpful in like telling you guys about the safety stuff and telling you guys about like the impacts of this. And I think that it's also helpful. And it was helpful to me talking to older riders about this, but I think it's helpful to have somebody that went through that still encourages you to ride. As strange as that sounds, because I think that it's still important to remember that this is an activity that is so fun and can be like the saving grace for people that like could pull them out of depression, or it could give them something to focus on in life. And I don't want to scare people out of doing it. I want them to like do it safely. If you're going to do it, like just keep in mind these things and like try to be safe about it, you know? Like remember that every time you get on the back of the bike, you are going to be tested. You're going to be tested, okay? And you don't know when that test is going to come. But when it comes, I want you to have, you know, I want you to be I want you to be prepared for it. I want you to feel as confident as you could be in that test. I want you to pass. You know. So pass your test, people. Let's go ahead and find somebody to raid into on that note. So go out there and pass your tests, people. Don't be skimping when God comes along and you know, does that. Let's see. Where are we going to go to? Where do you guys want to go? We Smart, Ico, and Fractal are on? Yeah. Ico, Fractal, Mindwaves too. Mindwaves is on. Yeah. Mindwaves? I really appreciate his perspective on Destiny and in general. Me? Or who? Ico and Fractal are both she, her, I'm pretty sure. Damn, I don't want to drive a car, let alone a motorcycle. I don't blame you for that. What's GSU Gambit? Postulates. GSU Gambit. Who is this person? Post-panel talks. I don't know who this is. Trihex if you want some clout. I would feel really gross doing clout shit after this. He was on a panel with Destiny tonight. Oh, okay, that's cool. GSU Gambit. All right, everybody's saying GSU Gambit. Let's just do GSU Gambit. Let's do that. Let's see. Clout shit after a serious stream. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's some fucking cringe shit, dude. I don't know about that. I'm not doing that. I'll send you guys over to GSU Gambit though. That seems fine. GSU Gambit. All right, everybody. I just got here. Well, you're going to have a really, really fun VOD, which you can watch on YouTube. If you want to support the stream, you can do that on Patreon or by subbing. I really, really appreciate that kind of stuff. Yeah, help me continue doing this. I'll keep, handing you stories like this one. Stay safe out there, for real. When you're driving a car or you're driving a motorcycle, consider the ramifications of making a mistake, okay? And don't let that scare you away from doing it, but let that be something that guides your decision-making moving forward. Have a good one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Don't be too bummed out. Your boy's just going to go play games and stuff. Have a good one. Woohoo. And to the YouTube people, I'll see you guys later.